Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, what is up? What is good? It's your boy Joe here, and we are starting another episode of the Fancams. Looking forward to having all of you on because what we witnessed today was a match of epic proportions. It was a week unlike any other. You guys tell me, how incredible was the round of football that we had to watch this week, guys? Honestly, it was an incredible week. And that's saying something as a Bombers man who actually had a loss. But what a week of football it has been. And the top eight is still far from locked in. It is unbelievable. Theo, how's it going, my man? 26-11 VC English into Merit next week. Mate, teams are split between those who have English and those who don't. And unfortunately, I don't. And I had a pretty bad week this week. I scored 24-65, but it is what it is. Shannon, yeah, it's not quite finals, mate. Looking forward to talk to Shannon. I'm looking forward to talking to Corey as well. Shattered tonight. Stupid mistakes cost the win. And you can't wait to get on. We're looking forward to having you on, Causa. It's going to be great. It was a very difficult round for tipping. You can say that again. The tipping was horrendous. Actually, let me pull up my tips. I was really rooting very strongly for Melbourne to get up because my tips were so bad. I got 3 tips this week. I got 3 tips this week. Collingwood was wrong. Geelong was wrong. The Lions was wrong. Port was wrong. I actually tipped the Hawks. That was wrong. And I tipped North Melbourne. So it was a shocking week. 3 tips. Jonas, congratulations, man. You guys absolutely turned it on Friday night.
What's up, Joe?
Jez, how's it going?
I'm good. Sorry I was late. I was just in the bathroom. I was going to call you and say, hey, Joe, have we started yet? And then I saw that the stream had started. So, yeah. Mate, I am atrocious. I know we've got Shannon on here as well about to rip me a new one, but that's okay because I show up. If I make a bet, if I say, come on the show, mate, I'm here. North Melbourne needs a lot of help. I saw your tweet during the week as well about Brad Scott playing the kids, and I think we play the kids too much, Joe.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It was far out. Our teams are in a very interesting situation. I feel like we're not playing our kids enough, and your kids are the ones doing a lot of the heavy lifting. It's
interesting because the AFL feels a little bit like if you're not first, you're last, right? So if you don't make the top 8, well, you better be on the bottom of the ladder because at least you get a good draft pick. That's at least what North Melbourne's like at the moment. Well, West Coast beat us, rightfully so. We're just atrocious. We are that bad that compensation, mate. Give us all those priority picks because we can't beat the team that got beat by like 170 points earlier in the year. So, what can we do?
Med, how's it going, Med? Outside of LDU and Shees, North have to deal with
everyone. Larky's the same as well. So Larky, Shees, all LDU. You can kind of make a bit of a team on that, but 100% agree. There's too many holes in the list, and some of it can be filled up by going to the draft. But you also need to be able to recruit properly as well. And that means getting those delisted free agents, getting those VFL players, because our young guys are okay. We just don't have leadership on the team and enough warm bodies to really run out games. And you can't expect kids who are like 18, 19, 20 to be able to do that. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, it was one of the trickiest rounds for tipping. It was basically upset. It was all upsets up until our game against the Swans. I think that was the first non-upset.
I think I was 0-4, to start. I've only scored 3 this week.
Yeah, me too. I only got 3 as well.
I think I was definitely just 0-4, which isn't a great position to be in, really.
No. Jonas, We asked this question before you came on. Has Big J thrown in the towel?
Never. I'm here for the rest of the season, mate. And then the trade period, and then the draft, and then everything else.
You were spewing up in the toilet.
You know what's funny? So a couple of years ago, just before COVID hit, I actually went over to Perth for my birthday and ended up watching the North versus Freo game. And that was shit. So imagine making the travel from here to WA to go through that game. Like, they had us from the get-go. We kicked the first goal, and then it was just like the game was over.
Yeah, unbelievable. Causa said 3 out of 9 tips and did say on Thursday that he would tip Adelaide, but he changed it to Port. Yeah.
Yeah, I did as well. Port at home are too strong, but Adelaide just had their number. I think it's a little bit of it's a funny situation because a lot of the teams at the top of the ladder are the ones that's actually losing at the moment. So your Brisbane, your Port. I think Brisbane, Port, and Collingwood all lost this week, didn't they?
Yeah.
From memory?
And yeah. Brisbane.
And Brisbane, yeah. So Collingwood lost, Geelong lost, Brisbane lost, and then Port Adelaide lost. So, there's your kind of loss at the start, and then 3 or 4 more weeks to get the system right and then go bang in the finals. So, lucky it happened now and not week 1 in a couple of weeks.
Jonas, if anyone thinks Marcy Darcy Moore should be All-Australian captain head of Tex Walker, you don't know Jack exclamation mark T about football.
We spoke a little bit about this on Friday night, didn't we, Joe?
Man, Jeremy and I Big J and I were having this massive discussion in the car, and I'm just like, mate, give me a team of forwards. I'll take all the best forwards in the league, and I'll prioritize them over the best defenders. Because if the AFL are valuing the defenders more than the forwards, then they've got their priorities wrong. And I think I'd be like, yep, I'll take all the top forwards into my team. Thank you very much. And I'll save myself some money. It's not the key defenders. It's not the defenders that are the ones that are box office. They're not the ones that put bums on seats. They're not the ones that win you the games. It's the big key power forwards. And man, I was telling Big J, if you leave Darcy Moore one-on-one, he can get exposed. And my word, Charlie Curnow.
I think there were a few frees that went the wrong way in that competition as well. But
he drew the free
kicks. It happens to Sicily, happens to everyone. But good key forwards don't seem to leave very often. Lynch was like the best one that's left in a very long time. Tex Walker was up for trade and no one wanted him, and now he's playing another year. But yeah, it's a tricky one, Joe.
Bro,
it seems to be a lot more good key defenders up for sale than key forwards these days.
Yeah, the way Tex Walker sold the dummy, Alira Lear had no idea what was coming.
Mate,
and then he goes on the left.
Himself out.
On the left. Bro, come on. Let's be real. How many people that do you know can shimmy, sell some candy from the mark, and kick on the left from outside 50, sails through for a goal? Come on. That was unreal.
How many mid 30-year-olds can you know that do that? Not even like kids. Like guys mid 30s. I mean, Tex Walker's not winning any time trials anytime soon, and he can still do stuff like this. So, yeah, it's an interesting one.
It's all about goals, mate. It's all about goals. And as long as you can kick goals, then you start. Hey, Jen, how's it going? Oh, I can't believe Jen is on after a loss. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those rare moments that Jen is on and they've lost. So, love to hear from you, Jen, what your thoughts were on Friday night. Because, obviously, Jonas and the Blue Baggers are up and about. But, look at that. Man, Darcy Moore is elite when he's defending air.
Yeah.
I like that one. That's pretty good. It's very close for the common medal race. Yeah, absolutely. But I'd imagine though that it's probably going to be. It's probably what's his face is. We got his stats.
Curno's right. He's that far ahead.
I mean, it's got to be Curnow, right? I mean, it was 7 goals, but like there's still 6 behind. Like Texas still 6 behind Curnow. Like it's hard to make up in 4 weeks, and I don't think Tex has the easiest run to end the season either. So I think it's all stitched up here, Charlie Curnow's, right?
Yeah, and it's sad because as a North Melbourne supporter, I think Nick Lucky's going to fall off in the next couple of games too. Curno's too good, man. We look at Curno and they just play so much better without Mackay in the team. Like, I know Mackay's great, and, they'll still keep him for next year, and there'll always be talk about, hey, let's trade him off for a pick. But Curno's just too good. And he's really accurate too. Like, just the marking potential. I think it's interesting. Tex Walker kind of plays a little bit, I guess, if I look at previous North Melbourne teams, maybe like a Jared Waite or maybe like a Ben Brown back in the day, these guys that just command like 2 or 3 defenders on them. And if you don't, he'll get the ball and generally kick a goal. That's what he does. And if he's not kicking goals, the rest of the team is. So, yeah, he's just phenomenal.
So you got Texas, got the Suns.
Yeah,
they're up and about. They might crash back down to earth at home for this. And they got
I mean, Tex at home. Tex at home will kick like 3 or 4 goals every game, regardless of which team he plays on.
Yeah, and then he travels to the line to the Gabatoir, go up against Harris Andrews, perhaps. Harris Andrews is a better defender, I reckon. Then he's got the Swans, who, mate, if 2-meter Peter and Kyle Langford can both kick a bag of goals, I can imagine Tex Walker at home can also go pretty big. So, and then he's got the Eagles in the last game.
Well, I think it might come down to that last game. I mean, I don't see him kicking 10 like Curno did, but he's got a long way to catch up as well.
He's got six goals.
Curno's got to have like a really slow game. Maybe against Melbourne, he has a shocking game and gets like 1 goal, and then that gives Tex Walker a chance to catch up. But looking at that, there's no one else who's really going to stop it.
All right, look, he's got Sam Taylor. Who's the best one-on-one defender in the game. So I reckon he could go bad.
Do you think that GWS game is the make or break for them? Like they play finals if they win, or do you think they're going to be close?
I mean, if we look at the ladder, it's I think Blues are playing finals, man. I mean, they're in the 8 now.
Blues, I don't think are going to get kicked out, but they could be close depending on how many. If they lose the next game, and you look at a Sydney, Richmond, Geelong win, they're going to be going pretty close. Like if Geelong win next week and Carlton lose, they've pushed them down to number 8 already. Let alone the Doggies. So it's still very close.
I mean, are Carlton losing to the Saints next week the way they're playing?
No, probably not. If Jake,
that's the thing. Like the way Carlton are playing right now, they've beaten Collingwood, a nigh full strength Collingwood, and they smacked Port. Now, of course, Port had a lot of injuries that game. They had 8 changes to the team, but still, you can only beat who's in front of you, and they won convincingly by 50 points. Yeah. So they're playing sensational footy. Like who's they're obviously they're definitely going to go in favourites against the Saints. I
think they'll beat them. I think they're still a little bit hesitant. Carlton, like they're doing fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but it's really like a confidence thing for them. So if something happens early, like it's going to take a lot for them to really bounce back.
I don't know. I think they've gone through their lows already.
Okay.
I think they've gone through this really bad stretch of games where they lost and they were bottom 4. I don't think they're going to fall back.
Jonas reckons Blues are playing finals, so hopefully that works out for them.
Yeah, I mean, you look at again, Adelaide are only a game out. Like this loss that the Bulldogs had to the Giants was pretty big, but then again, they played each other. So regardless, someone in the 8 is probably going to slip out, I think. So look, there's still a month of footy to go, and everything is still really close. And as we've seen this week, upsets are around every single corner. It's like far out. Who saw Freo beating Geelong at the Cattery this week? You know what I mean? Like
we've got someone waiting in the wings who might be able to talk to us about Freo beating Geelong. So maybe we'll get to our first guest, and then he can talk to us about what's happening with the next team.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So you've all been waiting for it, obviously, because I'm just so famous on this show. But Shannon, congratulations on the win. Good job.
I knew it.
You guys played less worse than us this week. You didn't play great. You played less worse than us. So congratulations.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. We would win.
Can't get any worse
And
than
we
what
proved you guys wrong. You said we weren't a chance, and you were wrong.
To be honest, let me check my footy tips for this week. I'm pretty sure I actually tipped you guys to win.
Really?
Yeah. I'm like North Melbourne. They're going to do my head in. And yeah, I tipped West Coast this week.
Oh my god!
So you know, I knew I was going to win either way, right? We get the win or I get the tip. So worked out all right.
I knew it. I knew we were going to win it. Despite in the last 2 minutes, I thought we were done for.
Oh man, it was very close though. Like we shouldn't have got back as well as we did. And then I saw Elliot Yeo got like tactical subbed, which I think was a bit shady. It's like, let's get rid of our defender that's doing well so he can put Elliot Yeo on. But he did all right. So yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one.
I knew it. I knew this would happen. Maybe if you guys hadn't been kicking straight, you should have won.
Yeah.
But no, didn't happen.
I think just stats-wise, you guys were ahead of us on like everything. Bailey Williams kind of bathed whoever we had. And then, yeah, just stats-wise, you guys beat us across the board. Like, we only got 10-7. So it's not like we were 3 goals, 15 or something, right? And we actually missed a lot. Yes, we missed a couple, but it wasn't like we missed a hell of a lot of shots. Yeah, you guys were just better.
We were just too good in the end with our defense.
Yeah. I think we were just shit. We were just letting people run through the middle of the players. We'd get the momentum. We'd get halfway up the field. And then our players would kick the ball back into the D50 like they tried to rotate around the field. It's like, what are you guys doing?
We look at
Curtis
with
four. Right? You gotta be honest though. Poor Curtis.
I think he was very lucky. I think he was very lucky. The same. Curtis kicked 3 goals in like the second quarter. So I think he was very lucky because he wasn't doing anything beforehand. Like he legit was shit beforehand. So he was very, very lucky. But yeah, guys like Payton Turner, you know, how have we got this guy in the team? 7 disposals. That's his farewell game. You know, there's a few players like that as well. I can't believe we still have the likes of Stevenson in the team. Like this guy's going to be playing VFL for the next 8 years. Because, mate, this guy's no good at all.
I mean, just look at the injuries North has gotten. Season-ending injuries, such as Griffin Lowe and all that.
Yeah. Well, and Mackay's basically checked out as well. So he had a couple of good grabs, but everyone knows that he's leaving. So why put in the effort, right? We're going to have to poach a few extra players and see what happens at the end of the year.
Jonas, West Coast Eagles suck big time. Just a little less than the Kangas this week.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I almost thought it was going to be a draw and just like North would get even further shafted because we can't even get like pick 1 after that. It's the race for pick 1. Shannon, are you guys going to win any more games for the year? I want that pick 1. I want that Harley Reid, man.
It all depends on the run home. I mean, we just broke our 16-game losing streak.
Yeah.
Whilst you're on 17.
We're on 17. Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a tough run home.
Yeah. You've got Essendon at Marvel next week. Then you've got
we're at home.
And then you've got Bulldogs
away.
And then you've got
and back to home again.
Yeah. So,
Matt, your players going to get tired just traveling backwards and forwards interstate and back home again.
Yeah, depends.
Away, home.
At least it's not like a Sunday and then a Friday game. Like they should be able to get it with a jet lag pretty well.
I mean, it's much part of the fixture.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? Because I don't think West Coast is as bad as what people think. I don't know if it's just a mentality thing or whatever, but there were points today where you guys actually looked half decent. The strength of kind of your mature age players are a lot better than what we've got. And you've got a lot more of them too. So, yes, like your Hearn and things like that might be getting offloaded or retiring. But you've got a few players. Like Jaden Hunt had his best game. Tim Kelly was on fire. Dom Sheed.
Sheed was on fire.
But, you've kind of gone past Nick Nat right now because Bailey Williams could, he's serviceable.
I know Nick Nat's not in there. He's already gone. Same with Flying Ryan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What's this? Flying Ryan going to Hawthorn, apparently?
Yeah, there's a few clubs going after him, I think. Just can't get a game.
But you look at Jason. Jason here saying, why would the Roos win? Eagles might win another game, meaning Roos have pick 1, and with Mackay compensation, they'll get pick 2 as well. So you end up with the top 2 players of the draft.
That's potentially what it's looking like. And I'm half thinking, do we do what West Coast were going to do, which would be offload Harley Reid for a bunch of first rounders and say, thank you very much.
No, you take it.
Oh, we take it.
You pick Harley Reid. You pick Harley Reid. You don't trade the Harley Reid pick away, man. No, you don't do that.
Realistically, if we traded Harley Reid, had pick 2, and got like a pick 5 and a pick 7 or something in the first round, that's basically our backline fixed. Our
top 10 basically.
Yeah, it will set us up draft pick wise for a few more years. So, yeah. Luke McDonald.
And now you guys got a tough one on. You've got Melbourne next week, and then you've got Essendon, and then you've got Richmond.
Yeah, we're not.
And then you've got Gold Coast.
That Gold Coast game is going to be. If we lose this game, it's going to be pick 1. I reckon that's the way it's going to work itself
Oh
out.
yeah, of course. Because I don't know. It's a question. It's questionable whether either you guys or West Coast.
Well, how many points? How many? What's the ladder percentage like now? Because I could see us being like, "Oh, Mackay, you're sick, right? So you just don't play this game."
There's still 17.6%.
17 points.
70% behind.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
It's a bit far. But yeah, we just need a lot of help across the board. And as Med says here, Luke McDonald is really soft. Not terrible player, but worst captain. I mean, the senior leadership at North Melbourne is atrocious. The older players just don't stand up. Like, our young guys are looking for kind of that guy.
They would never stand a chance.
And we just don't have them.
I mean,
80% Tog.
Because even Jai Simpkin did okay today. But he's not a leader because he's never been a leader. That's the issue. He's always had better players around him, and he's been kind of that supplementary player. And now he's there trying to push people along, and it's just like, mate, I posted on Big Footy, right? But I reckon North Melbourne should really look to bring in like a Jordan Dawson type and be like, hey, second season into the club, you're the new captain, because we're desperate for that kind of leadership at North Melbourne. And it helped the Crows, right? The Crows are looking good, so. We need someone to really step up, and Simpkin and McDonald just aren't those players.
Yeah, especially with Jack Zeeble retiring by the end of the season.
Yeah, he's done now. He's just waiting his time.
Get rid of him. He's too old.
Yeah, well, age is just a number, mate. You got to ask Tex Walker. Just ask Tex Walker how old he is.
I think just his body really hasn't held up. He's been kind of that player that's always jumped into the pack and jumped into other people and things like that. And he's a person that suffered with the game being a lot faster than what it has been in the past. So he just can't run. Like, he's not Shannon Hearn, right? Shannon Hearn's at least tall, is a really good intercept marker, that kind of thing. Whereas North Melbourne just can't.
1.86 meters.
Right, Zeeble's only 32. Let's calm down. He's not like his...
He's not 25 either. So, yeah,
I know. But for a seagull, it's a fairly forgiving role on the body to be a seagull.
Yeah. Moving to the back line like 4 years ago, and obviously we know that from Supercoach Joe, has really like extended his career out, I think, a little bit further than normal. But I think he's trying to do too much, and I think the game's just gone past him now. Like, if your only role as a backman is just to take a mark every so often and be slow and, not be able to run, I think the game's kind of gone past you a little bit.
Oh, congratulations, West Coast Eagles. Well, good game
nice
to go
work,
to,
buddy.
mate.
Good job.
Well done. Congrats. Jason is saying, what would you do with a Matt Crouch type to give leadership?
I have thought about it. I don't know if leadership-wise he's that great, but he's a lot better than players that we've got on the rookie list. And I would 100% just throw a rookie pick at him. Just be like, hey, we'll take you as the PSD. Maybe we'll give Adelaide like a future third or future fourth. You're only, 25, 26. We could do a lot worse. He's 28, all right. So, moving on a little bit. But, yeah, I think we could do a lot worse in the leadership character, like in the leadership category than what he offers at the moment. I think his brother's younger than him, right? His brother's like 20 and he's 29 this year, I'm pretty sure.
And his brother Brad Pratt is 29 years of age, so he's a year older than his brother.
That's crazy.
Also, Sam Berry would be gettable for a third rounder as well.
The only problem is Sam Berry's great, but we're going to have like Harley, Reid, and Sanders and all these other players.
He's 21 years of age.
So I don't know if Sam Berry's going to get a spot in that midfield. We got really exposed today as well. So the likes of not LDU was fine, but Phillips and other players. If you look at the stat sheet, Joe, from our game today, it was atrocious. Just kind of like the amount of disposals, right? Who actually got like a lot of these players. Chesser got more disposals.
16 for Phillips. That's not too bad.
Yeah, wasn't great though. A few other players.
If you look at the players, if you look at the players like Elijah Hewitt, Hearn, Marrick, they can do some real damage.
Noah Long looks really good as well. I like the look of Noah Long. I think he'll be a good player for you guys in the future.
I think even Goldie and Tristan Cherry hit the ball out to a couple of your players too. So it's not great.
Goldie had 18 touches for himself. But yeah, a lot of the heavy lifting, you can see just when your number one disposal getter is your rookie that you just drafted in the preseason. Yeah. It's not looking good because it's him.
It's not great.
No.
And I don't want North Melbourne to become like how Carlton was a few years ago with Paddy Cripps getting everything and just kind of being that number one and only. But I can really see, unless we change a lot, that's going to be LDU for a while. So, yeah. What are you expecting for the next 4 games, Shannon, before we head on to the next person? Next 4 games, do you want some more wins? Do you want to see kind of the young players doing well? What are you thinking?
I could potentially see a bunch of younger players doing well. I mean, if you look at the run home, it's going to be very tough.
Yeah.
Essendon will probably lose to Essendon. We'll probably lose to Freo and the Dogs. And the Crom will probably beat the Crom, but it's a 1 in 6. It's a 50-50 chance it might happen, but it all depends of the last 4 rounds. Got round 21, 22, 23, and 24. I mean, there's a chance that Kerno could kick 100 goals, or even less.
Yeah. He could go quite. Yeah, he could go quite a lot.
Yeah, cool, awesome, mate. Congratulations on a terrific win, Shannon.
You won the Harley Reid Cup. Next year we'll do it again, Shannon. We'll put some. We'll do some bets on a game next year.
Oh, we will.
Done.
Hope you enjoy it. Lap it up. You've got this over big day for the rest of the week.
Win another game for the rest of the season. Yeah, I want pick 1. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on, Shannon. Really appreciate you. You're always number one, always first to jump on.
Always number one, right? Pick 1.
That's all right. All is good.
Awesome. Cheers, Shannon. Have a good one, buddy.
Catch up.
Yeah.
See ya. Bye.
It's a bit fun. We went from a person that won by a little bit to a person that won a bloody good game. A game that we didn't expect to happen, Joe.
No.
Should we pull our next guest up on the screen?
Yes, please.
Done. All righty. Big Damo, how you doing, mate? Nice to see
Hey, guys, how are you? Yeah, I mean, I haven't really been on with you guys. I know you sent me a message about a month or so ago asking me to come on, and
Yeah.
but I didn't really feel like it. I think it was after a Dockers loss, and I was like, what am I going to talk about? But I'm happy to jump on now because they've won.
Mm-hmm. You guys did very, very well in a game that I don't think many people would have thought that you guys had won. So congratulations, hey.
Yeah, and I mean they do quite well at GMHBA Stadium, which is really strange because not a lot of teams can go to that stadium and win in any sort of fashion. I know the Giants have a good record there. I think the Dockers have won their last 2 games there, but not many other teams have that sort of record. But yeah, the Dockers just seem to match up really well against Geelong, and I'm glad they learnt from the week before against Sydney, where the midfield kind of looked a bit thin. And this week we saw the likes of James A return and go back in there. Hayden Young had a role in there and went through there a few times. I think Lockie Schultz and Sam Switkowski even spent some time going through the middle. I don't think they attended any centre bounces, but they spent some time going through the centre there as well. So they're learning week to week, and I think without Josh Carr there as the midfield coach, they don't quite have that creativity in their coaching stuff for that midfield group at the moment, which will come from experience. I think Josh Carr sort of coached them on game day really, really well through that last season, and it's probably something that they've really missed this year, having that creativity and sort of guidance throughout the games.
I'm going to pull you up here, right? You've missed a god. You've missed a guy who I've had in my super coach team for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks waiting to be played. Big Corey Wagner. He actually did stuff this week. He was good, and he helped you win the game.
Yeah, he was fantastic. His rebound was awesome, and to be honest, this is the game that the Dockers fans all wanted to see, because we've drafted a 26-year-old, almost 27-year-old who's had his opportunity at
North,
at 2 other teams, and you haven't really seen much from him. And then he's come in and he's had okay games. He probably gave away about 8 free kicks against Gold Coast earlier in the year, but no one really knew why he was in the team. And now Brandon Walker's gone down with that knee tendon injury. That means we need someone to start locking down. So it's opened the door for someone like Corey Wagner to come in and start doing that rebounding role. And and it's really paid off, especially with the likes of Hayden Young moving into the midfield, which was flagged earlier in the year to open the door for the likes of Wagner and Heath Chapman to play.
Surely he gets another contract for the next couple of years, right? Because was he on 1 year?
He got drafted in the National, so I think he's got 2, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
All right. No, fair enough then. Well, it will be 2 years then. But yeah, really kind of making that name for himself. And I'm happy. Ex-North Melbourne player, so I'll always have that in the back of my mind. But yeah, congratulations to these players that have gone back to the state leagues, have busted their guts and actually, got themselves back on the list, right?
Yeah, and this is probably one of the first guys that the Dockers have really benefit from taking in the VFL, because they sent away Sam Collins. He went away to the VFL, and now he's probably one of the best key defenders for the Suns there now. And they probably missed a trick with him. And there's been other players that they haven't really given enough love to and have delisted, and then other teams have sort of cherry picked them and they've had another life and blossomed. So the Dockers are now getting one back the other way finally, which is great, because their recruiting team has been really good at getting some of these gems late in the draft, or some names that you wouldn't have really thought of but they haven't really had this mature age success in recent years. So it's good for them to have those players come through.
I've always said it, and I've said it to Joe off air as well, just the WA leagues have a lot of talent in there that I think could play AFL, and it's really nice to see that kind of happen. You're my pick, or at least Perth, another WA-based team, is my pick for team number 20 in the AFL, and I think, with some luck, it could really be facilitated there. Just moving on to the game, do you see anything from Geelong's side that was a bit of a surprise for you? Like saying here, like Dangerfield got locked down. Tom Hawkins really didn't have that much of an impact. I mean, 2 goals, right? But even the likes of Tom Stewart had a really good first half and then kind of fell off a little bit in the second.
The way that Justin Longmuir coaches, he's quite restrictive to opposition defenses, even how easily the ball can rebound out of our forward 50. The quality that comes out of there is, I think, he kind of rushes the way. I think he kind of rushes the opposition coming back the other way, so you don't get the quality of kick that the opposition might want to move the ball forward, and that doesn't always work because the ball will move forward anyway. But I mean, they were talking about using Tom Stewart in the middle, and it's not the first time we've sent someone to Patrick Dangerfield, but I think this is the first time we've actually chosen a matchup that works.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Did you see you guys winning this game? Did you tip the Dockers to win this one?
Mate, I got 1 out of 9 for the whole weekend, so no.
And that one was Freo. Yes.
that one was West Coast.
No, I tipped North Melbourne for that. I got Melbourne correct. Yeah, I mean, the game against Sydney, apart from that 12-minute spell in that first quarter, this is basically there's the last 2 weeks. There's not been a lot of difference in the way that they've played. It's just this week, it's just been that it was just 4 quarters where they went all the way all the time, and they ended the first quarter without kicking a goal, but the pressure was there, the restriction was there, the way that they were pressuring the opposition, and then you have Alex Pearce with something like 15 intercepts.
Oh, he was huge, yeah.
And after the week that he had, every media person has questioned his captaincy, then comes out, puts himself right in the gun in that defense, controlling everything moving forward. He's shown that he might not be a good captain, but he's a good key defender, and he's someone who the Dockers probably can't afford to lose.
And this Michael Frederick goal, mate, how insane was that goal? When I saw that, I'm like, oh my God. I was at a birthday party, and I just like, oh my God, what a goal, Frederick! And everyone's just looking around like, what the hell's going on? Like, oh, sorry, I'm watching this Fremantle Geelong game. Like, I just think Michael Frederick might have won the game for Freo here. Like, people couldn't believe it. Like, really? And then I showed them the goal, the replay, and they're like, wow, under such pressure with Tom Stewart breathing down his neck. That was unreal.
Incredible goal. It wouldn't surprise me if that's in the running for goal of the week out of the 3 that they put up. But the other thing is the showdown. During the showdown at halftime, they showed the goal and then put it next to Gary Ablett's goal, as Med's talking about there. Almost identical. Identical. You got to give the chocolates to Gary Ablett there though, as having the better goal. But man, it was a good impersonation.
Yeah, it's interesting because I always remember him as being the guy in Supercoach who kind of went backwards in score, like in price. His first year was really dreadful, but I think kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like Freo's more moved to a quicker forward line with the likes of Meek and a few other players who are taller coming out of the team, and they're trying to run a bit more pace, and it seems to fit him a lot more. Similar to a Rioli or Pickett from Richmond, the guy that always just plays 1 quarter and then stops playing. These high impact players that maybe they'll get 5 or 6 touches, but they're good for a goal or 2 per game. Seems to be moving to a bit more of that style.
Yeah, Freo probably have 2 versions of their forward line, and it depends on who's available. When Sean Darcy's available, they'll have Jackson, they'll have Tracy, they'll have Amos, or someone, or a trio of talls down there to be able to take marks, and then they've got Frederick, Walters, Schultz, and then a couple of other smalls that can rotate through. When they don't have Darcy available, and Jackson has had to go into the ruck, I'm talking about this season, I should say. They've had to go with a smaller forward line, and there hasn't always been the smalls to go through there with availability, and there's been adjustments that they haven't quite been able to deal with, but Then you get the likes of Michael Frederick going through there and having the impact that he has. Lockie Schultz kicked 4 goals last week against Sydney in the same setup. It's just it's just a system change every single time, and it's the forward line's still a work in progress, obviously, because they can't consistently kick a winning score, but I think they're on the right path.
I think you have that just from being a younger team too, right? Like they maybe don't have everything worked out, but they've still got a few things that are obviously working out quite well.
Yeah, and someone asked me during the week after the Sydney game, like, what's happened to Freo? And I just said, I reckon we overperformed last season. I mean, that's not to say we haven't underperformed this season, but I reckon, but I think last year to finish in the finals was a bit of a surprise. It was great to get that win over Bulldogs in that elimination final, but I think this year definitely underperformed, but I don't know if we were a finals worthy team, especially with the outs that we had and the adjustments that we would have had to, that the team has had to make.
Obviously, getting Jackson into the team was great, but do you kind of hate the fact that, you're 4th last on the ladder and you're not going to have a top 5 pick this year?
In an open draft, if Luke Jackson was available, I would have probably selected him with pick 4.
Okay, well, fair enough then.
Yeah, I mean, look at Freo there.
And people are going to say that's easy to say now because obviously I have Luke Jackson, but if you look at the draft, it's full of key position players who are probably going to take 3-4 years before they get into the system, and there's no way that Freo we're going to get anywhere close to Harley Reid anyway. So it's like. So it's kind of like, do they have Jackson now and give up pick 4 and Jackson can play straight away, or do they pick up someone like a Daniel Curtin and then have to wait 6 years before he actually does anything?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fair enough. I think that's what the likes of Gold Coast are trying to do as well, from what I'm hearing, is that they're after the key defender, and maybe that's exactly what they need. But yeah, we'll wait and see, I suppose.
Jonas here says Jackson is a great pick-up. Not his fault for a suck this year. Blame belongs elsewhere.
Oh, 100%. The blame's on the coaching staff.
Yeah.
They lost Josh Carr and didn't replace him. Their midfield coaching is a bloke that's still playing for Peel, who comes in part-time once or twice a week. And then Joel Corey, who was like a skills acquisition coach, who probably shouldn't be a line coach because he hasn't had that experience.
Wow. Yeah.
And I don't know if that's part of their football department cap coming into that, and that's why they couldn't directly replace Carr, or if they put too much faith in someone's ability and it hasn't come, and the bet hasn't come off.
Yeah,
and we think that's why when you guys don't win the contested footy and clearances, you tend to lose the games. But it's something that you had to do playing against Geelong at GMHBA Stadium, and it has been a bit hit and miss during the year. But despite them dominating in the hitouts, I think as you mentioned before, your mid certainly got to work, and you got you were plus in clearances, centre clearances, and stoppage clearances. So it was a really good outing, good performance by your team, and you were plus 10 in contested possessions. These are non-negotiables. You absolutely had to do that to win the ball at the source. And I just thought that you did a good job having enough space in your forward line. I thought a lot of times where you guys got your goals, it was through good use of space and leads. So, I mean, it was a really promising game, and you were able to get some repeat entries, and nothing was easy. The biggest highlight that I could remember coming out of that game was Tom Stewart gets the ball running away and it would get smothered. Like, it happened like maybe 2-3 times in that last quarter. It was suffocating, and that's the sort of effort that you guys will have been a bit inconsistent in bringing this year.
Yeah, the ability for the team to use the space that they have at that oval, because it's a long, skinny ground so there's not a lot of space on the wings, and everything sort of has to go through the corridor. So for them to be able to utilize the space and close down the space when they need to was really impressive. So it feels like they had enough space when they needed it, and they closed down when they needed it. And I don't know if that's a byproduct of the ground being fairly skinny, or if it was something to do with the game plan on the day, or a bit from column A and a bit from column B. But I think regardless of the personnel, Justin Longmuir's game plan is slowly coming together, and I think what we saw against the Cats is what we're going to see a lot going forward. And Jonas has a comment that says kick to kick in the back line. Yes, when the ball is trapped in the back line, we struggle to break lines, and we recruited Jordan Clark to do that. But with Brandon Walker going down, he's had to play on the best small forward, so there hasn't been that run and carry, which is why Corey Wagner has suddenly become so important.
Do you think Sean Darcy goes at the end of the year? Because I know there's some talks that some clubs are looking for him, and then Jackson's still doing really well.
The issue if Sean Darcy goes is it leaves the cupboard bare in the ruck department, and Jackson has had back trouble, hip trouble, knee troubles when he was at Melbourne.
Yeah.
So if he goes down, the next in line is Liam Reid, who's a mature age from the Dockers recruited from Frankston. He's only just started doing full-time rucking this season. Mm-hmm. And then you've got Max Noble behind him, who's a 206 centimeter beanpole who will probably blow over in the wind. So I think the Dockers would prefer to keep Sean Darcy, and he's contracted, so they'll hold him to the contract if they don't get a good offer. But I'm also not ruling out them giving him away if they can find another backup at least that is viable.
And Tracy isn't an option to play that ruck forward sort of player.
He's 194 centimeters. He's not really ruck size. I think ideally they'd prefer him to remain as just a key forward.
Yeah, maybe like pinch it every so often, but not.
Yeah, I can see Josh Tracy being a bit like Charlie Dixon in a sense, where he can go into the ruck if disaster strikes, but they'd prefer him to be the one in the forward line as the sidekick to Jai Amos.
Mm-hmm.
How big is Jeremy Finlayson? Because I know that is something that
196.
Oh yeah, 197. Yeah, so all right. So Finlayson's a big boy. Okay, gotcha. No worries there.
So he's only 2 centimeters smaller than Jackson Finlayson.
Yeah, fair enough. But I mean, you're another player that has really sort of helped, I think, to improve the side. Now, he might not have had the biggest game because considering the dimensions of GMHBS Stadium, but Liam Henry has been really good for you guys as well. He's been having a really good season. Are you concerned that he's going to walk out, you think?
He's had 6 good games in 3 years at the club, and reckons he can demand top dollar. If he wants to leave, I'll drive him to the airport.
Love it.
I mean, he's been at the
fourth rounder. Give him a fourth.
The Dockers would love a second round pick, but I would be surprised if a draft pick is what gets it done. I think they'd want a player back. I don't know who, I don't know where, but I think they'd want a player back more than they want a draft pick, because their draft hand isn't fantastic this year, but they've got like pick 20, pick 38, pick 48, and something else. So they've got some good picks in that top 50, like all close together. So it's not like they need another pick in that range. But so I don't know if they send Liam Henry with a pick to get a player or something. But yeah, I think they'd prefer a player come back the other way.
Do you think a guy like Jai Amos is not being talked enough about, considering what he's had, the load that he's had to carry a number of times during the year, the number of goals that he's kicked to date? You know, he's gone over 30 goals and is a top 20 in the Coleman race. Do you think he's not getting as much recognition as he probably ought to at this early stage of his career?
I think he's getting recognition. People have got him in the conversation for the Rising Star. They think he's a dark horse in that race. Like the moment people have Ashcroft, Sheasel, Owens up the top there. But I saw something a couple of weeks ago that said that Jai Amos was a potential to take it out as a sort of like a smoky, and I mean, not a lot of key forwards do what he's doing in his second year.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see what happens really kind of with that. I think if he had a few more goals like this week and potentially over the next few, things will change. But yeah, I don't know. For some reason in my head, it's telling me Ashcroft's already got it. The AFL's kind of put him on the dream boat and said, hey, you're out for the next year, so he's the rising star. Unfortunate as it is, it's a bit of a tough one, especially kind of being a fan of Sheasel.
Damn it, the AFL team should release the height of each player with their arm extended up at its maximum to the top of the fingertip. So what are you asking for?
A bit like basketball.
Like the AFL do with the wingspan sort of thing.
Yeah, a bit like, the heights on websites, don't read into them too much.
No.
I mean, like Matt Forrest at the Geelong Advertiser is 190 centimeters, and he reckons he's taller than Jeremy Cameron, and he's interviewed him several times. So I don't think the heights are taken all that seriously when they're measuring. So Jai Amos is listed at 195 or 196. Who knows if that's his actual height, but it's what they'd like to list him at.
Fair enough. Med saying here, Sheasel not winning it will be a farce.
Yeah, we'll see. If he keeps popping out some more 30-point, I mean, we talked about this on Fancast, right? So if he keeps popping out some more 30-point, like 30 disposal games, potentially. But there's always that thing of, well, his team never wins. He's not that impactful. Give it to someone else.
I mean, Caleb Sarong won it when the Dockers won, like 5 games that season. So there's a chance.
Yeah, definitely.
Overall thoughts on the season so far for the Dockers? I think there's been a lot of yeah, go for it.
It's been shit. I mean, there's been games that I thought we should win, and then there's been games that I'm like, how did we lose this? The beginning of the season, and Big J has me on the week after we lose to North by 1 point, and I go, I know exactly why he wanted me on here, and he brings and he brings Mini Monk on as well, who's also a Dockers fan. It's like, this is why you want us here. And
I mean, it was the last win we had for the rest of the year, so.
I mean, I would have done it too. I mean, like it's. I mean,
rude. So rude of you, Big J.
It wasn't intentional.
But like, there's games where just we should have won and didn't, and then there's other games where we should have lost and didn't. So it's kind of like maybe we're exactly where we're supposed to be, and it's crazy that there's 3 games separating 6th and 15th. Like, that's how close this year has been, and it's just been unlucky that the Dockers have been pumped 2 weeks in a row to ruin their percentage and be down as low as they are.
Yeah. I mean, I find it hard, though, to look at what you guys lost in the off-season, in the preseason, in terms of experience and leadership, I guess, and sort of expect them to still be up at a really high lofty level, because I mean, you're third youngest in terms of age experience, the game's experience, and you're equal 4th youngest in terms of the average age of your list. So like, it's a very young list, and it's hard to imagine that without all these players, and you lost a lot of players, right? You could list them all up.
So David Mundy was a big loss for the leadership in the middle there, and they've tried to replace that with Jager O'Meara, but he's probably only just been going for the season. Griffin Logue probably wasn't as big as a leader as he was, just as he was good for the positional sort of aspect of the 22. He could play back, could play forward, and we would usually put him on players like Buddy Franklin and Jesse Hogan and players like that, because Logue could run all day. And then but we've sort of replaced him with the likes of Luke Ryan being able to step into that role and playing the same sort of role that he did back in 2020 when he won the All Australian jacket for the first time, and then Blake Acres has probably been the biggest loss because we've sort of lacked that big body in the middle. Fife could never get going. Will Brodie's hasn't really had the opportunity, but he's also been struck by injury several times.
Yeah.
The biggest body in our midfield is 185 centimeters, and you look at teams like Western Bulldogs where the Bont's 195, McRae's 192.
Taking these heights with a grain of salt, of course, because we don't trust websites.
Take it. I mean, when they stand next to each other, you can see one's smaller than the other one, but we don't know if these are their actual heights. But yeah, I mean, they haven't had that player who's been able to take all the hits and still come out with the ball, and so they've kind of had to play taller while being the smaller team.
Sounds a bit like Essendon's midfield, really. Whole bunch of small players, no real big contested ball winner.
Do you know Essendon's season has gone down as soon as Will Setterfield got injured?
Mate,
Set a goat.
Will Setterfield.
Set a goat.
He's done his toe and he's been out for the past 18 weeks. So I don't know what's up with that.
He had his foot stomped on, mate. Take it easy.
It's a bit of a running joke on the channel, Damon. Just Setterfield and his foot.
And they call him Set a chick. They're just slandering the poor man who's been debilitated with an injury. Like, he's coming back soon. He's coming back soon, man. He's coming. Oh, mate, you got Pommy and Oz here. How's it going? The main man.
How about the win from Carlton on Friday? That was insane.
He should come on the chat. Come on the show and he can chat about it if he wants to. Invite links in the description. Let's go, Pommy.
Exactly. So, what do you expect for the rest of the season, though? Well, Damo, you're hosting the Lions. You're obviously coming off a very disappointing loss against the Suns this week. Are you expecting to see? What are you expecting to see for this game?
I don't want to sound too confident, but I reckon the Dockers could win 3 of their last 4.
Nice.
Can you please lose against West Coast?
No.
Oh, okay.
To be honest,
Please?
the way the season's going, that's probably the one that they will lose. But
okay.
I think they're more likely to lose against Port Adelaide or Hawthorn in one of those final 2 weeks.
Uh-huh.
Against Brisbane, they might do okay, but I think they'll win. I think they could win 3 of their last 4. I don't know which one they drop, and I don't want to say which ones they win, but I think.
Oh, there you go, Pommy. Freo will win. He reckons they're going to be the finals ruiners for form.
Yeah. So, see, Port Adelaide is another team that Dockers match up well against when they play them, especially at home. So Port Adelaide's a little bit like Geelong light, kind of. So they could win that. I don't know how. Like Brisbane could go one way or the other. They should beat Hawthorn at the MCG, but it is the MCG, so who knows?
I mean, you guys played with the MCG when you're up against Melbourne, right?
Yeah. Justin Longmire has tactics for like specific teams, and there are a few teams where you can tell he hasn't quite worked it out yet.
Right, gotcha. Well, it makes sense when you've got, I suppose, a lot of question marks over line coaches and things like that. Like, there's a lot of off-field appointments that need to be made, and I'd imagine he's got his hands full, I think, and trying to help develop these young players to get them to where you guys hope and expect them to be at. So, but I give you guys I cut you guys a lot of slack this year. I don't consider your year to be a real big disappointment by any major stretch. Of course, I don't have that emotional investment into your team that obviously a lot of your supporters do, and I certainly felt really sorry for Jackson during the course of the season for copying it as hard as he did. Like, that's not doing him or the team any favors whatsoever. And I mean, you look at your losses. You lost to the Saints, who started the season hot at Marvel Stadium. That's fine. This one was obviously a bit of a shock game.
That game there, that Fremantle North game, that was if the game started better, the Dockers would have won by 3 or 4 goals. Yeah. Their first quarters have been a massive issue. There's probably 3 or 4 games that you can point out where if they had started or at least matched the opposition in the first quarter, they probably would have won by some margin.
Yeah, I mean you beat the Suns. You lost to Adelaide in Adelaide. That's a lot of teams do that. Even Port did that. You beat the Suns. You lost to the Dogs. The Dogs. You don't know what Dogs side you're going to get every week, right?
But that was the Rory Lobb game, the game where the Dockers were like, it's just another player, and then they spent 3 quarters trying to tee up the next UFC match.
Yeah.
So if they had spent more time, playing football than kickboxing, then it might have been a closer game. That game was so frustrating to watch.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can 100% imagine. You lost to the Lions at the Gabba. A lot of teams do that. That's no embarrassment or anything like that. You smashed the Hawks. You beat the Swans over there. That was a really good win. And then you've come and obviously beat Geelong by 29 points over there. You beat the Melbourne over here, which was a great win as well. Richmond play the dimensions of Optus and MCG really well. So I'm not...
That game was another one, though, that if the Dockers had started better, it probably would have been a closer game or even the result of probably a different way.
Yep. This one for me, I was sitting watching it and I couldn't believe what I was seeing in this game. Like personally, I'm like, what's going on? As this game was going, I'm like, we're going to lose next week because the rocket you're going to get after the game, I knew you were going to come out spewing fire. That was really bad.
That GWS game was one game where you were watching it and you were and you weren't shouting at the players, you were shouting at the coaching staff to change something. Yeah. It's like the coaching staff just wanted to let the game play out and trusted the system way too much. And I've been watching, and I've seen a few losses, a few Fremantle losses, especially last year, and Justin Longmuir thinks changing things up is moving James Aish from the wing into the centre bounce set up, and it's like that's not going to do anything, man. It's like that's their forward line eating our defenders. You got to do something with our defenders. Like I don't know, send Josh Tracy back or something. I don't know, move, get our ruckman to like rest backwards instead of forwards. Like do something.
Yeah. I hear you loud and clear on that one. And then you came out and you smacked us around the ball in this game, and you know that was a really bad game by us, really good game by you. Then you came here, lost to the Dogs by 29.
That game, that other Bulldogs game, where you kept coming, and then the Bulldogs will sort of inch out, come in, we'd close the gap again, then they'd inch out again, and then at the end of the game, the Dogs were like, all right, let's stop playing with them, and then just sort of finish the game out. And I just think the Western Bulldogs just didn't want us to do what we did in that elimination final. I think they thought, they're getting a bit too close here.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the back-to-back weeks against two really good opposition. I was really bullish on Carlton at the start of the year. I had these guys as a top 6 finishing team. And then obviously Collingwood really improved themselves over the off-season as well. So again, not the first, not the last to lose to these teams. This one was probably a disappointment last week. I thought this one was more disappointing than those two.
Well, the Collingwood game and the Sydney game probably both had similar issues in that there was a 15-20 minute patch where the Dockers just couldn't stop the run. And take out that patch and the Dockers were probably the better team. It's just they couldn't stop what was going on. There was like against Sydney, there was 12 minutes, and you can literally count it in the first quarter where they kicked 6 goals. and there's no reply, there's no urgency, there's nothing. From the second quarter, it's probably an evenly matched game.
So that to me though screams that to me is another young team, young inexperienced team struggling to fight against momentum. Like momentum swings are really strong and really can be wild in footy. And if you're a young inexperienced team, it's much easier to get swamped by. And I know I've seen it with our team as well, where we just tend to have one quarter where we slip, and apart from that one patch, we're matching them for the rest of the game. It's just, I think that's something that will be improved upon though, with age, experience, more pre-seasons, and just the team gelling better. I was just, it's a better line coach, it's a better coaching as well in the coach's box. That I can agree with you there.
Yeah, I definitely hope there is some maturity learned in this year that they can take into next year. And Peter Bell used a really strange word during the week on radio, but I kind of get what he means. And he says, and he said, there's a lack of arousal to begin the game. They kind of just want to go out there and get it started. There's no like, come on, let's go. There's no. There's no spark, and he used arousal as the term, which
is
an
interesting word to use.
But I get what he means. I just don't know if that's the term to use.
Yeah.
When talking about a football team, but
get the players up and about. You mean?
Yeah.
There was no hard-ons for this game. No one was.
It wouldn't surprise me if he had a loss for words and that was the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, probably. So we're tipping the Dockers this week. All right, I'm listening to you. I'm going to tip the Dockers this week.
How did West Coast get a Saturday night game? Sorry, just looking at the fixture there.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
No, it's the showdown. That's why.
No, it's a derby, mate. It's the derby.
It's the same thing.
It would make sense if the Dockers were hosting because like considering last year, but the Eagles have that. The Eagles are hosting this. They must have thought the Eagles were going to shoot it back up the ladder really quickly.
Jeez, the AFL must be really out of touch then with its competition if that's what they thought.
But the Dockers only travel once for the rest of the year.
That's true. That's true. And it's a good old Melbourne when the weather starts to turn around and we're looking good and, and hopefully end on a high note, playing over there at the MCG, the home of football. But yeah, I guess that's about talk about Freo, right? You got anything else to say, Big J?
Nah, just saying thanks, Damo, for coming on. Obviously, it has been a while, as you said, but love to have you on whenever you want, mate. And yeah, keen to do some more stuff in the future, heading into next year as well. So yeah, should be fun.
Yeah, guys.
Go Freo. It's not that big West Coast.
Thanks, guys. Big fan of what you do.
Cheers, man. Where can our viewers see you and find you, man?
They can find me on Twitter at DamoSC, or they can follow at Footy Mailbag on Twitter.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Really appreciate your time, man, and for waiting while we had Shannon on before. Really appreciate you giving us our time, man.
All right, guys. No worries. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Cheers. See you, man. Go Dockers.
That was pretty fun, Joe.
The Dockers, mate. I was watching this game. I'm telling you, I was watching this game. I was at a birthday party, and I was getting really into it. And I'm just like, come on, Stewie, do something. And they would get freaking smothered, and we'd turn the ball over. And I'd be like, no, what are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I just can't believe they won, to be honest. Like, everyone would have had them. I wonder what the percentage pick rate would have been. No one would have got 9 out of 9 this week, the way the games have gone. But talk about waiting, and a guy that has been waiting basically since the start. And we've been waiting to be a good team, waiting to follow a good AFL team and turn up to AFL games and have fun. It's Big Causer. How you doing, mate?
Good.
Good. Nice to see you again. North Melbourne, man. Like, what is this nonsense?
I was furious when like Darling has like 10 disposals in the first quarter.
Yep.
And I thought, we're not on here.
Nah, I saw it too. When they kicked like 4 goals in a row, it was that typical North Melbourne. The confidence has gone down. Nothing can pull it back, and then it's just like, nah.
The
Do they not
confidence was
realize they're
down.
playing the bottom of the ladder this week?
Yeah. But it was just hard when Larky is like straight in front and misses. And normally he's really good at. So, and then when Paul Curtis was like 2 meters out, hits the post, it changes the whole game.
Yeah, it definitely does. Especially, it really kills that momentum too, right? Like
and then Hanson Jr. was trying to tackle the guy, but then he stops. I don't think it was the right week. The only reason they picked him was because it was in WA. They said.
I think so, and I think we're going to see a few more of those type of players later on as well. Where like we start. I know this is probably Kane Turner's farewell run. So
I was thinking that. I thought, why'd they pick him instead of like Hugh Greenwood's? Hugh Greenwood's just sitting there, not getting picked.
Yeah,
and like
I reckon it's Kane Turner's last run,
and then they dropped Cooper Harvey, which was a weird one as well.
Yeah, no, definitely.
What happened to Josh Goda? Asks Jen.
He banged his knee.
It was like a knee knock, something to do with,
Yeah, Bank was going for a tackle or something and went kind of front on with the player, and his knee got knocked, and then it was like a bit wobbly, and then he kind of fell down, and I think they're just being a bit cautious because he came back from the rooms and it was like, he's fine, and then
and then he got subbed out later on.
Yeah, definitely. Have you heard all the news? Are you keeping up with the North Melbourne news at the moment? All these players that apparently we're getting rid of.
I've heard like because obviously we have so many list spots, but if we want to gain like say 7, 8, 9, 10 players or whatever, we have to delist like 14 players or whatever.
What?
Yeah,
14 players?
Because we'll be at 56. Because you got to be at 42, and we'll be at 56 if we want to bring so many. Yeah, you have to get rid of a lot.
So North Melbourne currently is on 46 spots.
Yep.
And because we got a couple of additionals and then players got LTI'd, so next year we have to have 42 unless the AFL gives us concessions again, which I think that's crap. Like, how do you give people 2 free list spots and then take it away the following year? Like, I think that's atrocious, but typical AFL.
Typical North Melbourne, always requiring concessions.
Yeah, I think we're culling about 15 or 16 players, Joe, at the end of the year.
God. It has to be because, or else we can't get enough players. To get to 42.
Draft picks and stuff we have just won't matter.
Yeah,
so, it's going to be fun. A new look North Melbourne, which I think fans have been crying out for. Like, it sucks that we've got Core and McDonald and a few other players on long-term
but Core
contracts.
he played all right today. But...
it was pretty average.
I guess
Core was okay, but the rest of them weren't good. But there's there's a lot of stuff happening at North Melbourne at the end of your joke.
And then they didn't have really many AFL listed in the VFL today either. So they lost by about 50. So they lost about by 50.
Well, the rumours, right? The rumours are saying that the likes of Aaron Hall and a few other players got told, hey, you're not getting contracts next year. So they just decided not to show up.
Oh, okay, yep.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. So, we'll see what happens with that. I think even some of the players today, like when Kane Turner kicked that goal, how all the players came around him, was just like, this is probably your last game, buddy.
I think that's what it seemed like.
Good job on the goal.
I think that's what it seemed like.
Yeah, I think there's a few of them. Brand new team, man. Hopefully we get rid of the coaching staff too. Keep Clarko and maybe like Jordan Russell, but the rest of them, they're just terrible.
It's been.
I think we've got a defensive coach coaching the forward line and like development coaches.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like no wonder our ball delivery is crap and we can't defend. We don't even have coaches in the position. So
yeah.
So you guys literally have nothing going for you. Literally nothing. There is no facets of your team that is functioning at the moment.
Oh.
Like the young players are okay, right? And I think Goldstein's probably going to survive another year. But
I think so as well.
Outside of that, we really don't have a lot happening, and it's probably the best time for Clarko to be away because he can really kind of see how the team's going.
Yeah, because there's not many like young players other than like Sheasel and that are consistently like
putting up
keeping in the team. Like it's like Aiden Bonner, like there's Lazaro, like all those guys. They can't put like 2-3 games in a row.
No.
Next week they're dropped.
Yeah, even Taron Thomas today only 10 touches against the West Coast, right? 10 touches against the West Coast. Will Phillips got 16, so it's not as bad.
Yeah, I know.
But he moved down that list and it's atrocious.
It was
not great.
It was horrible.
Nick Larkey had 7 kicks. Like that was him today. A few of these other things as well. It's just terrible. Guys like Stevenson. I don't know if you're the same, but it really feels like in North Melbourne, the last like 2 years worth of drafting's been okay, but the rest of them have been terrible. So even if they're younger players, getting rid of like the rest of them to get rid of them. So I think it
was when just before Reshaw and with Noble.
Yeah.
I think it was then when they delisted like guys that were playing good. Like they delisted like McMillan too early, who was a great leader. And like he could have, and then there was like Marley Williams, who was like, who we got for nothing. And he played a really good season. And then next they just delist him because he was about 26, 27. And then never played an AFL game again.
Yeah, there's a lot of those players, and there's going to be a lot more at the end of this year, mate. I'll tell you what. There's a lot then, and there's going to be a hell of a lot more now.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. I think with list sizes, they should really return list sizes to what they were post-COVID, just for the fact that players' salaries are going up as well. So there's a lot more money in salary caps. But, it really feels like a lot of teams are getting to that. Hey, we've got our best 36, 37, and the rest are kind of there. Whereas North Melbourne, I think we've got a best like 13 or 14 maybe in the team. So
I definitely agree with that.
Like everyone who's basically got drafted before Phillips, everyone who was drafted before Phillips is really on notice because they're just so much. The young kids we've got coming through are just so much better, and they're not going to get a spot. Sanders will come in. If we get Harley Reid, he's coming in. If we get half a dozen other players, they're going to kick these established players out of the spot. Like Stevenson's
then like if we have Nick Watson as well, potentially. Yeah,
exactly. So it's going to be a real kind of let's bring 40 players in over the next 3 drafts and have at it.
Yeah,
Jonas, I think you've been worrying about the upcoming court case, mate. Any news on that? Anything?
No, he's acquitted. He's done. He's acquitted? No more court case. Yeah.
Yeah, it was done ages ago.
He hit the beers. He's hit the food. He was celebrating, and now it's caused him to get a no tank.
He got off. But yeah, I don't know. There's talk that Taron Thomas has gone to Gold Coast or someone else anyway. So maybe he's just waiting for time. Hey, if we get pick 5 for Taron Thomas, I'm taking it any day of the week.
And then I've heard there's like a rumor that. Oh, it could be. Yeah. Because Gold Coast been a rumor like for more.
Gold Coast don't have their first round pick because of they've got to match the bids for all their young players, right? So they're trying to
they've got their academy guy that's really good.
Yeah, so maybe we can offload him and then pick up like a salary cap or someone else, and then double whammy. Here we go, pick 5. So see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Yeah,
got to do something.
Like interesting rumor. There's like a rumor where North could look at leadership of like Dyson Heppel. I've heard as one rumor that could help do like.
Give us your first rounder, mate. Give us your first.
Do a Luke Hodge style thing that they did at Brisbane.
Yeah, but we don't pick Dyson Heppel. We got to pick someone who can actually play still.
With Heppel,
I know that
Heppel. Doing a Hodge? Come on, man.
No,
I'm not do something.
That's a different. But that's what I read somewhere.
Yeah,
I read somewhere.
You saw from the game how bad the leadership is because the young kids are okay. It's just the leadership on the field. Like they've got no one to stand up, and I'm really critical of our captains because I don't think they're the right players. Yeah, they're friends with everybody and whatever, but when push comes to shove, your best friend doesn't push you on the field.
No,
It's the
it
guy that
actually.
you've got
I
respect
thought
for
they
and
were the right
yell at.
candidates at the start of the season, but now I'm unsure.
They look terrible.
And then it's also hard. There's like it was hard when we don't have like Zerha as well,
Yeah.
but
but he hasn't been the dominant
no,
player.
I know he
like
hasn't been. Yeah, I know. Yeah,
So
but I mean that could have helped today.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Maybe we'll see. We'll see if we can shoot him back like a second round of next year or something. There'll be some salary cap shenanigans there. I mean, they gave up pick 7 for place. So yeah,
100%, Bobby. That's why when I heard like Hodgie Heppel being a Hodge, I'm just like, mate, they are very far apart. The only thing exactly that they have a similarity on is that they're both human beings.
The only thing I've got at the moment is that Clarko has been trying to work on a bit of the recruiting behind the scenes. So there will be some fringe players from other clubs who should be coming across because we just need guys in that age bracket. We just need to fill up the list and then throw in a few guys with the age bracket. So
because some of our like VFL players can't even they're not up to standard.
No,
like Jacob Edwards. I don't know why we brought in.
He's done.
I don't know why we brought in Hamish Free as one of our picks, and we could have had Ethan Phillips and stuff like this.
Or Kane Turner. We gave Kane Turner a list spot over guys to fill needs in the team.
Yeah, that's what I was meaning. Kane Turner over Ethan Phillips. Like he was there in the rookie draft and then doesn't get picked.
But I legitimately would be going through all the VFL teams and the waffle teams and looking at who's your captain, what's his leadership like, what's his qualities, can he come and fill a need in the team? Because we've got young kids who are looking up for someone to push them, and
we
just don't have the players to push them.
Heppel's not that guy.
No, he's not.
Yeah. I wouldn't even don't do it. Like I'm not saying I'm not saying it's hold on to him. I'm saying genuinely for you guys, a lot of Essendon supporters have been crying out for Heppel to not be the captain, and that finally, at long last, the changes happened. We've got Merritt, who actually has standards, who is hard on his teammates and things like that. You know what I mean? Like, we've been crying out for Heppel to finally. He's a nice guy, but he ain't no captain. You know what I mean? Like, you need a. Heppel is not going to be that. I mean, with all your injuries and your shortcomings in defense, maybe he could certainly play a role and be a mature head for you, because I think his footy has certainly turned. He's certainly turned around his footy in the last month. I thought his last month has been pretty decent for us. I'm not going to deny that.
I think it's like a coach on field potentially, but definitely not as like as anything really special. There's a lot of players there who. Yeah. Oh, that's pretty funny.
Hepatitis.
There's a few players who we could go after, but we'll just wait and see what happens. Really. Who's not getting a spot.
It's just hard when you have like father-son. It's like you have father-son opportunities, but then they choose their academy, how we could have had like Nick Blakey and like stuff like this.
But you know what, though? If North Melbourne was competitive at the time that he was available, if we were pushing for finals and winning games, it would have come to North. So, unfortunately, it's just us.
Oh, my God. I love it. Whenever something starts with Jesus, you know things are going to go funny. Even Jesus himself said that can't be done. I'm sorry. Yeah. Heppel will never be Hodge. That cannot be done. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what they said on the article thing I was reading. That it should be a similar style.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Is all.
I hope it doesn't happen.
I mean, respond to SJP. SJP's put this thing. He said, "You reckon Taron Thomas has the talent to be a top 3 player on your list?"
I agree, right? But I think he's at the point where we've got a few players with trade capital, and we've got to look at getting rid of those guys and bringing in players of need and things like that. And I think he'd be more happy playing for a team where he is competing, because when we're playing well, he does really well. But games like today, where we rely on him to carry the game, he gets 7 touches. So maybe he's not that player, and he'd be a perfect player for someone else who's competing and can play.
Sometimes he's missed to fix it sometimes as well. So he's not like just he can play anywhere. It's not like he just has one position.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, excellent. I'd be Mandingo, to be fair. If I change my race, I got a 6-pack, grew another 4 inches, and then about 6 inches between.
Jesus.
You're killing me,
That reminds me of those memes that you'd always used to find. Oh, gym transformations. It's got a fat guy, and then the next picture is 6 months later. He's got the big, strong. Yeah.
It was like the guy for was it UFC or boxing, where he was he gained like 25 pounds of muscle in 24 hours after his weigh-in.
Yeah. It happens.
He was like 229 pounds, and like the next day after his weigh-in, he was like 205 pounds.
Yep.
Wow.
Wow.
Amazing. Anyways.
It's going to be a good preseason, Causa, and good.
I hope so.
I can't wait. We're going to put out so many videos of players leaving clubs. It's going to be fantastic. Be in North Melbourne, just blammo, 8 players gone in one day.
Yeah, just sit there, eat the popcorn, and watch the show unfold over there at North Melbourne. It's going to be ugly before it looks pretty. We all knew that going into it, so it's not like
5 years of pain before.
It is what it is.
There's clubs, and we say that, right? But the talent's on the list that you can bounce back quick enough if you get the players right. You can bounce back. You can at least be competitive. You've just got to make the difference. Like no Jack Siebel today, no a few other players. The team looks a lot different. So we just have to go.
And it will look more different next year as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully a better different moving into the future. That's it. The time for change is nigh. And it looks like lots of changes are ahoy. So that's good for you guys. All right. Awesome. Cool. Causa, it's always a pleasure, mate. Hopefully
that's all right.
next week you like what you see a bit better. If whether it's a win or not a win, so be it.
I don't see it.
It's all about the process, mate.
I don't see it against D's, but
no chance.
You never know. Yeah.
I just don't want Ben Brown to come back and kick like 8 on us because that just makes me sad. So as long as that doesn't happen, I'm good.
Yeah, but at least it's in Tassie, not at the MCG. So.
Yeah, I guess so.
The swirly wind to hopefully work some magic for you, mate. Alrighty.
Catch you, Causa. Thanks for coming.
See you, Causa.
See ya.
Bye. Wow. Wowzers. All right. I have to add screen for this one. Because what we're about to talk about with this guy is astronomical, off the charts. And I've also opened up Charlie Curno's Wikipedia page because I want to edit it. I want to edit it, and I want to scroll down a little bit. And where he says Charles Curnow, professional footballer, blah, blah, blah.
But did you hear that he now plays for Brisbane, Joe? So, he's playing on 2 teams this week. He's now playing for Brisbane and Carlton.
Nothing would surprise me.
In the league.
To be fair, nothing would surprise me anymore. I've just heard Dyson Heppel and leadership and Hodge in the same sentence.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I'll
tell you what.
Dyson Heppel to leadership is bloody what Jimmy Hoffa is to hide and seek. Do you know what I mean? Like, what is going on?
Jen. Sorry, Jen. Hobby is on and he's going to be up and about. But I got to add here for Charlie Curnow, he was crowned the best player in the league in 2023 and has confirmed his favoritism for the Coleman medal to be changed to the Curnow medal after his career ends at the Carlton Football Club.
That's asking a bit there, Joe.
Mate, he is the best player in the league. I have been convinced, and there he is. He is the best player in the league. I have been convinced.
It's taken you a while. Do you know what I mean? The first time we met, do you know what I mean? I know the team that we're going to batter the next week, Jake, was a little bit upset. Reckon Jeremy Cameron was better.
I agree. That's what I said when we met.
Football's not for everyone, ladies and gentlemen.
No. It's something that Joe and I have brought up over the last couple of weeks, is that he just looks so much better with Mackay not in the team. I don't know if that's the same for you, but there's less bashing into other players and kind of allows him to run around a little bit more, which is weird because there's not another key forward to absorb a defender. Maybe he just needs that kind of arm's reach, right?
I don't think so. I think it's just a myth. I think it's just that our forward line is working so much more sustainable. So I think that you won't.
Yeah, but is it better?
Harry hasn't played in this side. Harry hasn't played.
Mackay's injured.
I think that's ludicrous. Like, you're David King's levels there, Big J. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
we've already established David King knows fuck all about football.
If Mackay gets injured and now you start beating these top teams, is it not fair to say that him not being in the team has made the forward line look better?
Not really, no. It's just the advent of David Cunningham, Jack Martin have come in, so Carlton have got actual half forwards as opposed to putting another inside midfielder out wide. And it'd be great. I mean, I don't think there's a Carlton fan existing right now that wouldn't want Harry Mackay in the forward line next week. I think we'd sacrifice anyone in that 22 to bring Harry back. I mean, because you saw what happened. I mean, Jennifer there, God bless her, free kick Kerner. I'm very impartial with umpires because we know my hatred of umpires for and against Carlton are quite high. I can't stand them. They're second worst people on the planet, bar traffic wardens, who are definitely number one. But umpires,
the ticket inspectors, for sure,
yeah,
absolutely,
fast approaching. Actually, second behind, them people on metro trains. Get a real job. Do you know what I mean? Who cares who skips the ticket? But that we digress. Every one of them free kicks Charlie Kerner got was fair. I mean, Darcy Moore was. It was almost like how I wish my honeymoon was, how close Darcy Moore was with Charlie Kerner, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't be so cantankerous if I had a honeymoon like Darcy Moore had given Charlie. But let's be honest. Yeah, Charlie is one of the best players, if not the best player in the league. And Harry with him, it would be a dream at the moment because the way Carlton are playing, they're playing good football at the moment. They're playing real good football and dismantled probably for me the best side in the competition. I think Collingwood are head and shoulders above everyone else. And I think the Blues now should go in. Probably the only side when we play finals who go in fearless.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Hopefully, hopefully don't lose the next couple of games and get kicked out again.
Who's going to beat us? Who's going to beat us?
I don't know. Teams beat everyone else on different days, so we'll see what the matchups are like. But
there's about 8 goals between us and St Kilda. They're the most plastic side in the AFL. Melbourne's probably a 50-50. Suns batter them. They're not even a real football side. And GWS, their form is the most overrated form in AFL history. Who
7 in a row.
Beat?
7 in a row.
Look at their results, though. Who they've beat.
All right, we'll go to them. We'll go up. Let's scroll up. We'll put the Giants in these last 7 games. Who have they beaten? They've beat the Dogs, who are really good at Mars. They've smashed the Suns. They went over to Adelaide and beat Adelaide there. That's
Adelaide's
good.
Worst game of the year as well. Look at that
For
statistically. Sure. Adelaide imploded.
They could the Giants have caused a vacuum or something?
Hawks. Everyone beats the Hawks. God bless them.
That was very inaccurate by Melbourne.
Yeah, but Melbourne by far the best side that game.
They smashed. They were atrocious this game for sure.
Fremantle were being shocking.
Yeah, they obviously beat North. This one was a really close game. It was in the last minute that the Richmond kicked the last goal there. So almost a draw.
Did to Richmond, and look what Melbourne did to Richmond this afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it was brutal. That last quarter was just one-way traffic. It was insane. Geelong, they have a good matchup against Geelong over at the GMHBA Stadium. So that's, again, not something that every team can say that they can do. And then
they were sacking Scott, though, round 10 and 11, remember? Yeah. They've just played people in the right time. They've just played teams in the right time. Like, the 4 form teams in the comp at the moment are what? Carlton, Collingwood, right? Collingwood probably still ahead of Carlton, even though we beat them, let's be right. Their run has been sensational. Port, they're in free fall mode. GWS, yeah, they've got numbers on the board. But I'd say the two teams you're wary of are Brisbane and Melbourne, because Melbourne have got the quality in their team. And Brisbane, do you know what I mean? They're always a final side. And it's probably fair to say the entire AFL doesn't want Carlton to make the 8. But come on, let's be honest. You got to give. It's about time my Blues got a little bit of respect back. Do you know what I mean? Biggest turnaround probably in AFL history in the middle of the year, playing real free-flowing, exciting football.
Yeah, I mean, especially with you guys, pushing down the bottom half of the ladder as well to this come out.
Bottom 4.
They were here. Where Fremantle were 7 weeks ago.
They were literally here, and now they're here.
And you guys have probably saved Voss's career too, because if you were down at the bottom, I'm sure there would have been fans in the club asking, hey, is this guy going to be around for us? Is he the right type of coach, right?
It's reverse. I would say at the moment, Carlton and North are reverse sides. Carlton had a big turnaround because during the dark times of this year, for the first time ever, we'd heard players come out and said it's our fault. They didn't try and blame the coach. They didn't try and blame anyone else. The club made a decision to remove or resign Matheson, who has been notorious over the last 10 years that he puts his fingers in pies, finally gone. They backed the coach. The players owned it, right? And they've had a turnaround, right?
And they lost to Essendon. They lost to Essendon, and you couldn't. That's it. We can't live with ourselves the way we're doing this. We got to change.
No, but that's fantastic because there was finally a little bit of an accountability from the club, right? Which Carlton suffer from, like Collingwood, like Essendon, as you know, Joe. Big clubs, big headlines. But in reality, we're no different to North Melbourne. We're still a football team. But North Melbourne won't be criticised. Carlton will be for their mistakes. Well done, they owned it. North Melbourne, though, like just hearing you, Jay, earlier, like how many picks do you want? How many mythical things does North Melbourne want? Where they've got a very good call list. They've got one of the greatest coaches of all time. This is a really easy fix for North Melbourne. And I feel like North Melbourne are copping a little bit of hate because I would love to have seen Clarkson in the last 8 games run this club. Because as much as I love Ratton as a Blue, horrific coach. Horrific coach.
I think we're still affected by the issues that have happened at the club in the last 5 or so years. Poor drafting, lack of good mature age players, poor leadership, guys getting games when they shouldn't have, no one really pushing for spots, that kind of thing. And rewarding players with 1 and 2 year contracts because of potential versus, hey, you've had a shit year, see you later. Yes, I might say we need some picks and things like that, but across the board, you look at our defense, right? We haven't drafted a key defender however long. Our midfield still has atrocious problems. Our forward line, no one can kick a goal, and players like Zerha are getting trialled in the midfield. So, like, I think there's major problems across everywhere, and I think without assistance, it's going to be another 5 years of North Melbourne on the bottom, which is going to be another 30 or 40 free wins for every other team in the AFL, which I think isn't the right way to go about it, and there needs to be some change.
I think North Melbourne and Eagles are in a strong position. You've got a lot of trade stock. Do you know what I mean? Ben Mackay's going to go, and you know what the AFL's like. They're going to really overprice that free agency move. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's already talk that he's top 5 pick.
But if he goes, and let's say an Essendon pay him $700K for 5 years, then that's band 1. So it's not AFL giving us assistance. This is what the player's going because he's a 25-year-old key defender leaving on big money. So it's not the AFL giving us a handout. It's what it should be because that's what it would be at another club.
There'll be a priority pick though coming as well. You'll have like 3 of the 5, and if you balls that up, man, do you know what I mean? Yeah. We're talking. And
send them off to send them off to bloody New Zealand, and we'll start
Kiwi Roots.
Yeah, we'll start branching out there.
I do want to give Jennifer a shout out though. Collingwood were a great game this weekend. I've got to say the fans were up and about. I don't quite agree with Collingwood coming up with these mythical excuses. I've never heard so many excuses from Collingwood. They're verging on the French during World War II areas at the moment. I've had the Guernsey was a clash, but evidently that doesn't affect Carlton.
No.
Evidently they had a few outs. I'm not too sure who was out.
Bobby Hill, mate. Bobby Hill
Darcy
would have been the big difference, mate.
Darcy Moore was good out. No, Darcy
Do you know
Moore.
what I mean? I thought that was two teams playing the game in the best spirit, and I think you know what, fair play to them, and can't wait to see them in finals. That's where we want them. But tell you what, let's talk about the Blues. How fucking good are the Blues? Hey,
mate,
made a big call on SEN. Whoever won that game won the flag. So can't wait to be immortalised in front of Icon Park for calling the 17th flag in round 14. Thanks very much.
That was.
It was a great game. Darcy Moore definitely got found out a little bit. And I think I go on about these teams that have had a lot of wins, who are on kind of that win streak. And it's like, well, it does need to happen for them as well. Like, you can't just win the entire season because the loss comes during the finals. At least now they've got a few weeks to try and figure out what they've done wrong and fix it coming into the hard part of the season, really.
I agree. I mean, I've said this about the Pies. I think they're very beatable. I think Joe's mob nearly beat them. I thought that was a great game. St Kilda early in the season nearly beat them. I think the mantra to beat Collingwood is quite simple. It's very hard to do, though. It's 4 quarters of really intense pressure, flooding the corridor, taking the short option away and hard running. Not many sides can do that. And cold, hard facts are, in the last 7 weeks of the season, Carlton and Collingwood are the biggest running sides in the league. So I was quite confident coming into this game on recent form because I was like, we're probably one of the few sides that can run with this mob, which I think is so important. And you saw Collingwood, they gave it their best, and Carlton just managed to have that lead where it is. Pies will be well aware, though, and they're probably going to be better prepped for Carlton's flood should we play them in finals. So do you know what I mean? Like, we've played our one wood. It's going to be interesting because Collingwood in a final will be a total different kettle of fish. We don't know how my boys play in a final. I suspect they'll be quite good because we've got a lot of freaking big-time players there. Do you know what I mean? Who are made for the limelight. Charlie Kerner being one of them. But you know what? Even though I hate Collingwood as a football side, 2,000% respect to what they've done because, 3 years ago, bottom 2?
Yeah.
Like,
that was an anomaly. Yeah, but that was an anomaly. That was an outlier. They were not that caliber player. They were not that team. The same way you guys were not the team that was ranked 15th a few weeks ago. Like, that was not an accurate representation of where the team is at.
Oh, maybe. I mean, I don't buy into it. There's a lot of conspiracy theories that go wrong. Like Michael Rubinstein there. Do you think they lose? Like, I think that's a very amateur mentality in Australian sport. These are professional sides. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That won't come into it. Collingwood, you saw the way they played. They wanted to win that.
For sure.
I do not think, unless it was something like Carlton versus Collingwood, round 24, if there is a 12-point result, Essendon missed the 8, then maybe they might come up to a little gentleman's agreement. But I don't think that happens. I mean, I think at the end of the day, Collingwood do need the respect. They've reinvented the wheel. They're playing good football. They're a tough side to beat. They play their one wood well. But I also think that we don't give compliments out in the AFL. Like, you know, for AFL socials and fan base, to a POM is Mickey Mouse. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. There's no danger going to the game. It's the safest place you could go. Do you know what I mean? You sit together. So for me, you've got to give up the bravado that there's rivalry. There isn't rivalry. There's just people in different colours. So you've got to give a bit of respect. But also, I feel like Carlton are going on this run and no one's giving them respect. Like, you were quick to condemn us. You were quick to laugh at us 8 weeks ago. We're playing good football. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was there on socials complimenting Collingwood 8 weeks ago, saying amazing. I was complimenting Port, even complimented St Kilda and Essendon because they are doing well. Carlton need to be taken seriously. Because I'll tell you what, I'll guarantee this. Carlton will go deep into finals this year. I guarantee we play finals round 4, and I'll guarantee we go deep into finals.
Yeah, I think, as you're saying, if you underestimate your opponents, you're doomed to fail, and you guys have been doing very well. I think kind of the strength across the team doesn't just have to be Kerno, and we've found that in recent times too with the likes of Moplot, kicking like 4 or 5 goals, So it's not just rely on the 2 tools like it has been in previous years. And the midfielders as well. Like we see the Jack Martins, even Walsh and a few other players running and kicking goals, which is something maybe you haven't had in the past as much.
I think there's a total buy-in. I think Corey's comment's great about the pressure. I think that we're the only team that handled Nick Dacos efficiently, and it's something that makes me laugh this season. People say you can tag Nick Dacos. I watched Nick Dacos all through juniors, and I remember 6 months into it saying he's the best kid I've ever seen through the draft. He's going to destroy the AFL. I remember making a call in the first 3 years of Winner Brownlow. He'll probably win it this year. You can't tag him. It's impossible to tag him. He's way too good. All you can do is take his give and go away. And that's what Carlton did. So we forced him to kick long. It was the furthest Collingwood have kicked long all year. We took short options, and that's because there's a team defence. Where before, you go back and watch round 10, we were drawn to Nick Dacos. 3 players would run to him. It would give him 3 short options. He'd run ahead because he's so fit. It's real simple stuff, but it's hard to execute. And I think Carlton, Collingwood, Melbourne, the 3 sides for me this year, in the last 6 weeks, who have really stripped it back and just executing what they're good at and taking away what the opposition are gone at. It's not really that complex what all 3 sides are doing. And you know what? I think it's going to be probably the best final series we've seen for a while because it's still nip and tuck. I mean, people have wrote Geelong off, but far too experienced to be written off. People are writing Richmond off, but you know what? Richmond are playing a lot of the top 8. So Richmond's job could be to fuck finals for someone. So there's a lot of good games there. And you know what? I think next year, I think it's going to be hard to call the bottom 4 because I think Jay's side will be good. Eagles will be good. Hawthorn will be better. I could see that it could be a real tight bottom 6 and a real tight top 12.
I think it's going to come down to a lot of fitness fast, how much time we actually put in the preseason and things like that, because the talent's there, but it's just we just can't play 4 quarters at this moment. But yeah, totally agree. And look at Corey's comment here. I know Joe just touched on it, but the sides that can pressure for 4 quarters are the ones that just find holes. I know it's been an analogy with a lot of other sports. If you're not the best, you run out games. You make sure you're the fittest on field. And not saying Carlton aren't the best team in a lot of circumstances, but just being able to put on that pressure for so long just holds appear across the board because there are players in teams maybe who are like the bottom 6 of their 22 where the fitness might not be there, things like that. If they're playing majority defense on field, your one player can run around, get the ball, kick a goal, and hey presto. So yeah, works out really well.
Mate, I wouldn't just say sorry, Palmer. I wouldn't just say also that it's necessarily purely structure and purely game plan, because it also you need to have the players on the field actually be in a position where they can execute that game plan and play their roles for the team. And it just looks like the Carlton players are playing with that belief and that confidence that was eluding them during the dark time this year. And you're seeing a lot of these players in really crucial moments are standing up. Like you look at, I'm pretty sure Doherty single-handedly saved maybe 2 goals by himself in a 1v1 simply by reading a handball that was going to be passed over the top. We had 2 Collingwood players. They're streaming forward. You've seen this script so many times during the year and even last year that when Collingwood get that, the steam, they're up ahead, they're running, they're fast, they're connecting. And all of a sudden you just have that one perfectly placed judgment. And these 2 players have been completely caught out of position and bang, you're going the other way. And that's something that you hardly ever saw against Collingwood. When they get their offensive ball movement going, very rarely does it collapse and all of a sudden they get caught out the back. I genuinely reckon that your players, McGovern, Wiedering, Doherty, even Sard as well, a lot of these players, individual players, just are playing with a much better confidence about them, and that's allowing them to execute.
I think as well, having those mature age players, being able to, after a goal, reset and actually encourage and push the young players to do a lot better as well. Something that leadership across all boards that a lot of other clubs don't have is, hey, we're currently losing. I've seen stretches of games where Carlton's been down 3 or 4 goals and then bang, 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 because the young person's been pushed. They've got their confidence back, and maybe it is an effort by an established player, but it really is the younger guys backing them up at the same time.
I think it's like anything in life, though. I think that the vibes are quite high at Carlton. That you're starting to see ever since Gold Coast round Q1, when we started our run, we were the same Carlton that got battered by Joe's mob.
Yep.
And then there was just little things that started to go Carlton's way, and you've seen it through every week. They've started to build on that to the extent now there's little things like that mark that Jacob Wheating took 2 minutes in against Collingwood, and you hear the crowd roar and the players getting around him. And then you see Ollie Hollands make the tackle on Maynard, the players get around him. You see the spoil by Nick Newman, the players get around him. You see Jack Martin get around Ollie Hollands when he sidesteps and delivers it in. Carlton is starting to get a real pride in the basics. And I remember when we lost to Wessendon, I went on a rant and said, you watch Collingwood and they make a spoil out of bounds and they celebrate that like we celebrate kicking a goal. I think that's a big thing that's infectious as well. I think Carlton have just simplified it to realise that it isn't Charlie Curnow versus 22 players. It isn't Cripper versus 22 players. They need Nick Newman, Boyd, players like that to step up. And then when Charlie Curnow has his second half like he did, where Darcy Moore battered Charlie in that first quarter, it allows Charlie to have a good second quarter because his team is still performing. And
yeah,
it's something that Collingwood have got very good. If one of them doesn't get you, someone else will get you. Carlton are starting to build that, and long may it continue, because tell you what, we've been shit for a long time. It's weird going on socials and being confident that you're going to win.
I hear you. And one thing that probably the best thing, I just to touch on that, because Jonas just read there, Jonas, about Maynard, dog, fake tough guy, applied the contract several times. Another thing, though, that wasn't in a contest, it was Maynard getting up in Motlop's face. And
and Cripps pulled him away.
And then Cripps comes up to him and pulls him up, and Maynard just simply runs off. Like, no retaliation whatsoever. And it wasn't like Cripps went overboard or anything. He just put him back in his box, and Maynard ran off. And it just feel like they're starting to even on field between the players, that they're starting to respect what Carlton's doing, what Carlton's bringing on the field, and they're starting to take them more seriously. And it's very hard when you're up against the team that's up and about, and as good as your team is. Let's be, I said this before to many people. I tipped you guys to be a top 6 team coming into this season, and obviously you guys weren't living up to that. So whenever you're not living up to expectations, it's very easy for people to start, taking the mickey, taking the piss out of you. But it's very hard, though, to swallow that and be like, crap, they've turned it around. I can understand why people are reluctant to really get on board and to give Carlton the kudos that they really deserve, because it's very rare. I don't know how many teams have been able to resurrect the season midway through the season, and then it looked like after they were lost to us, because we didn't play great footy that day. You just played worse footy somehow. Like, we only had one decent patch where we were able to kick those goals, and apart from that, it was just a very uninspiring game of football. And then even Q1 of Gold Coast, because I was there watching it, I was on your watch along, and we're talking about, the skills are really poor in that first quarter. Like, what the hell's going on? And then all of a sudden, Q2 is like, where the hell has this been? Like, then you obviously said this, they spoke to him, full on your sword, etc. But like, from that point on, it's just been an absolute change in mentality and the pressure, the hard work that the forwards were putting, running up, and not simply allowing the halfback to storm away, receive the handball out of the stoppage and run off with it. They had someone breathing down their neck all the time, and not every team can do that. I know our team can't do that. The Bombers can't run out 4 quarters, and that always catches us in games where we're winning 3-quarter time, and we fall away. We can't maintain it for a full 4 quarters. That's why we're not ready to go. But you guys are ready to go, and I can totally understand your excitement and your enthusiasm coming into finals. I can't see you dropping out. I just cannot see you dropping out. I know all the people are like, I don't know if it's them being facetious, them just simply, trying to, again, the Mickey. But the way you guys are going, I'd have you pegged ahead of St Kilda, obviously. I'd actually be leaning towards you guys against Melbourne, especially if it's raining on that day. I'd probably be leaning slightly towards you guys against Melbourne. Obviously, the Suns and at Marvel, that's a weird game. Marvel Stadium against the Giants. Why is that Marvel? But again, I have you guys favorites for all 4 of these games, and it's unreal.
I think the vibes are different this year. Like this time last year, I think we'd already played our best football. You could see the boys were running out of steam. It was obvious. We were literally at this stage. Fuck, I hope Brisbane do us a favour. I hope Port do us a favour. You didn't have faith in what the Blues were doing. And you look at the turnaround, like you talk about the turnaround, like Jennifer's talking about kicking. You can't kick when you play good football, like when you play good pressure football. And that's what Carlton was struggling. That was the big annoyance with Carlton. We weren't being pressured. We couldn't kick without any pressure.
Correct.
And it was creating them options. And then you look at how we played Port. Port, a very direct side, the biggest meters gained per disposal, and really pressured them. We got them to kick in the areas we wanted. We knew Collingwood, they're one of the quickest sides from the middle parts of the ground. So we took away the corridor, pressured them again, made them kick down the wing. And obviously your accuracy levels go, kick into 1-on-2s. Carlton managed to gain the upper hand. And it's all from that pressure. And it's like what Jay said, it's the buy-in of the players. When have you seen Jack Martin? I never forget against Port, Dan Houston went halfback and he got run down tackled by Jack Martin. And I was like, that's probably the first time in Jack Martin's decade career he's run down and tackled someone. I have never seen, since he's been at Carlton, Jack Martin is always the one hand out as the guy's running off. Puts the effort, looks like he's put the effort in. But I was like, this guy wants it. And then you see David Cunningham, the class merchant, as we call him at Carlton. Suddenly he wants to tackle. And it's that real buy-in now that players that you don't suspect, even Dow this weekend, who has been notoriously complained about his defence, he looked like he wanted to tackle. And it's them core understanding the basics. And I do go back to Carlton for the last 5 years have this obsession with class, this obsession with talent, this obsession with Harry, this obsession with Charlie, good players. And it's flipped now where the obsession is with hard workers, players that are going to put a shift in. And I always say this about Collingwood, be honest, have they got elite 22 A graders? Probably not. They have got probably 15 guys who are willing to put a shift in and die for the black and white. And then they're topped up with the superstars. And Carlton have started to swing that change now. Fogarty, Newman getting the respect, doing the hard yakka, which then allows players like your Sam Walshes, your Cherras, your Kernos to have them good games. Because Kerno wouldn't have kicked 6 goals this week if Always didn't work hard, if Martin didn't work hard, if Pitternet didn't act as a decoy run at times. He would have been fucked.
Martin didn't buy in and then kick, to go for the runs and do those pinpoint kicks. Yeah,
Mate,
it's very true.
You've been missing that link-up player. That link-up player to enable you guys to kick deeper inside the forward 50 has been something that you guys have really been missing. Like that ability, because a lot of your kicks inside 50 earlier in the season were too shallow.
Yeah, so shallow.
Because you didn't have that link-up player. You didn't have. Jack Martin plays a massive role, and he works his ass off. He works. He runs a lot in order to present for these leads, and he's a decent kick as well. And obviously, you got a great forward line when it's spearheaded by yet another guy who's about to win the Coleman Medal again, the best player in the league, Big King Charles, and he's playing with a supreme air of confidence as well. Like honestly, good luck to the defenders Like, you guys got St Kilda this week. Good luck to Cal Wilkie if he's the guy that's going to go. And like, I can't see anyone one-on-one against Charlie this week. The way he's playing, the way you guys are feeding him the ball, and your acquisitions were very shrewd. I think Akers has been terrific for you as well this year. He does a lot of gut running, and that's what you guys need. You need to have wingers who are able to run all day, every day, up and back, and that's the only way you can win. If you're not fit enough to run out the game and play the full 4 quarters, you're going to get caught out. So, mate, it is blue skies for the Blues at this point, really. Like,
it's good, and I'm glad you touched on Martin, because like I always said last year, George Hewitt should get 50% of Patrick Cripps' Brownlow. Because last year, Hewitt, suddenly we had someone to help Cripps do the dirty stuff.
Mate, the lawyers should have got 100% of his Brownlow.
Shouldn't have been suspended. You don't suspend quality like that. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
He's allowed to go for the ball. But I think the big thing for me this year, and no one's talking about it, is Cripps' development and maturity. It was a tough time. I can't imagine what it was like. He started to lose Harry. He started to lose his best players again, just coming off the back of an Essendon game. Fans have spat on the president, Jack Silvani, after they've lost. Everyone's looking for blood. There's a real hatred emerging at Carlton. People talking about a board push, sack Voss. And I remember in 2017, a lot of criticism came about Trent Cotchin as the leader of that football club. And one of the big things that you heard was Trent Cotchin doesn't average 30 touches anymore. Trent Cotchin isn't the superstar anymore. And it was that development in Trent Cotchin's game that made him a great leader. He started to trust Dustin Martin and the young midfielders around him, Cam McIntosh, them types of players. He started to trust they could have 25 and win a game. And that's what we've seen from Cripps. And people aren't talking about it. I thought Cripps' best game for us this year was against the Pies. Hasn't had a load of the ball, but
20 touches.
Yeah, but I mean, he orchestrated that. He was protecting his players. There was that wonderful passage of play in the third, and he takes 2 players off, and he handballs, right? Handballs to Dow. And I was like, people doubt Dow, but that is a captain saying, you know what, we're under a bit of shit here. I trust you, kid. I trust you. I'm giving you the ball. You've got it. And that was my criticism of Cripps. Not really a criticism, but criticism of Cripps and the club is they put that on Cripps. And they say to Cripps, you've got to do it. Cripps is now booking the trend and going, no, I don't. I trust. I trust Cunningham. I trust Martin. I trust Dow, whoever it may be. And then you watch Wheater. He trusts Jordan Boyd to take to kick out. He trusts them players. There's that element now of team camaraderie. And you know what? Times are good. Times are good. And now we've got idiots writing articles about Harry Mackay being traded. I'm not too sure what Gary's problem is.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? For the longest time that Cripps, well, you guys were struggling, Cripps did put the game on his back. He felt like he was the one that had to carry, that had to do all the work, things like that. And now, as you say, he's kind of letting a few other players take the load and pass the ball around a bit. Well, we're getting the results, aren't we?
Because it's a trust element. I feel sorry for Cripps because I'm sure, I assume Jonas Goat's a Blue fan, but I'm sure he'll say the same as what I'm saying. The problem is with Carlton is we force Cripps to be like that because we have a messiah complex at this club. When Judd came over, Great White Hope, soon as he was injured, Cripps was Judd. Soon as he was on that stretcher, they already decided Cripps was Judd. And we've always done that. And it's only recently Voss has started to bring next man up, team, us. He uses all them niche words, us, we, our. And that I'd say Voss is a big driver of getting rid of the Messiah complex and adding a team complex. And Jonas nails it. Chera, look at him. I've never seen Chera be this good defensively. Yeah. I always thought he was a one-trick pony at Freo. His defense, even when we were shit, superior. So, correct. Good vibes. And you know what? Fly did it at Collingwood. Voss is obviously doing it at Carlton. you've got to get into these players' heads because they're all good players. Even your team, Big J. These players, I've seen players like Blake Drury play juniors. Incredible, terrific footballers. They can play football. They just need faith. They need a coach to get inside their head and give them the confidence to go out and play good football because Sheezel's one of the best players I've seen. Blake Drury, most underrated player in the draft, in my opinion. Zeri, incredible ruckman. His improvement from coming through. Sometimes you just need that faith and that belief from a coach. And you know what? It'd be nice to see North Melbourne Carlton. 90s were pretty good, weren't they? Let's bring the 90s into the 20s.
And then the Hawks from the 80s as well. I think as well, not discounting what you're saying, but I think overall the team's got a lot better. You had a period there where Jack Martin and Williams weren't doing much, but as Cripps, as you say, as that started to happen, you had the Walsh era, him coming into the team. You've had a few acquisitions now, Hewitt and then Shara and a few others where the team's actually got better. So it's not a reliant on one player anymore because the ability's there. There was a big time when Cripps was really, you had Cripps and the guys up forward and maybe Wiedering and at least from opposition's fans' eyes, there wasn't really many more A grades in the team. So the team itself's got a lot better.
Recruitment's been excellent because we have avoided big names. Yeah. Like since Nick Austin's come, if we needed a winger, we would have fallen into the Carl Amon trap. So if that was Silvani, he would have gone, right, we need a winger, we need run.
Who can we throw?
Blake Acres is superior defensively. Oh, but Carl Amon's the best winger in the world and he wants 600k. Fuck Acres. And we would have gone after Amon, right?
Yep.
It was the fact we went, right, better, well-rounded, more safe decision is Blake Acres. Hewitt, we needed an inside midfielder. No way Carlton would have gone for a guy that isn't good enough to get. We would have been.
When you guys got Hewitt,
Parker.
When you guys got Hewitt, was the moment I thought that this team is on the cusp of making it, of getting good, because I thought that was probably one of the most shrewd pickups out of all of the trades that were done last year. I thought that move, because the principal at my firm is a Carlton man. Shout out to you, Chris. And he was just like, who's this guy? This George Hewitt guy. Is he the number one? Is he the number one at Sydney? He asked me. And I'm like, no, he's not the number one. He's like, is he the number two at Sydney? I'm like, maybe not the number two either at Sydney either. He's like, so what's the point of why are we getting him? I'm like, because he's exactly what you guys need. Yeah. Because he is that defensive midfielder, hard nut, who's going to be sensational in helping out Cripps. And I thought, and I'm like, you might not be super amazed. And he's like, was he a good super coach option? Does he get a lot of super coach points? And I'm just like, no, not really. He's been sharing the load with a bunch of people playing different roles. It's like, so why are we trading this guy in? I'm like, mate, you will see. You will see. And we saw just how great of a trade he was. And exactly, you guys aren't going for the big, massive names. You're filling in the needs, and Fremantle are absolutely filling this thing now without Sharon Acres.
Spawn, and he was like when we got Blake Acres, there was loads of moron Carlton fans going, oh, he's average, oh, he was a failed halfback at Saints. And I'm like, oh, he's not like Josh Dacos. And I'm like, well, we don't need Josh Dacos.
No,
right?
Of course.
We need a guy that can run up and down the wing, put in 15 kilometers every fucking week, tackle, intercept, do the basic ruck work, because we've spent $1 million on our midfield. So we just need someone to spread. He doesn't even have to be brilliant. As long as he does his job, holds his width, which allows Cripps, Hewitt, Walsh to get the ball out and get it out wide, get it away from the contest. And Acres is a king. Hewitt is a king. Like, you want to go, if you're Sydney, if you're North Melbourne and Eagles, you're looking at your Sydneys and your Geelongs, well-run football clubs that are the breeding ground of role players. And Jonas makes a great point. Carlton have the same injured players because we look for cut price deals off a guy that has 2 vertebrae left. But he was pick 1 10 years ago. Fogarty is the biggest no-brainer in the world. Comes from Geelong, where they have a ruthless execution of the basics. I am probably one of the few people in the world who isn't shocked he's doing what he's doing, because he comes from a good club that has
Yeah.
a whole killer instinct in basics. You don't have to be a superstar at Collingwood. You've got to do your fucking job. Sydney, you've got to do your fucking job. Freo, most of them come from the Ross mold. You've got to do your fucking job, right? The glitz and glamour is the bonus. And that's why I really like having them. We need more B graders who are fit and less flash in the pan. So this year for Carlton, I want us to hit this draft hard. This draft is a real strong draft in depth from what I've been looking at and covering, as I always do every year. I want Carlton to go, right, let's look for the 5th, 6th cab off the rank. Midfielder, get a guy to replace the 5th. He's going to be fit every day of his life. Backman, going to be fit every day of his life. He doesn't have to be good. He has to be steady. And once Carlton develop that, you've got that wonderful situation then. And hopefully Jack Martin and Connor stay fit. And Kurt and Marchbank, they fucking owe it. But that's the big problem with Carlton. We always go for ace list. And that's what I hope Big J's side don't fall into the trap.
Yeah.
Everyone wants Harley Reid. Everyone wants a top 3 pick this year. Don't fall into the trap of superstars. Don't fall into Brodie Grundy coming in as a ruck and things like that. Go for, right, we've got our superstars here. Drury's going to be a superstar. Zeri's going to be a superstar. Larky's going to be a superstar. And back them in with really solid talent. And that is where Carlton went wrong 10 years ago. We went after fucking idiots like Dylan Shield, Stephen Cornelio. We should have been going after real bog average 26-year-olds to tide us over to where we are now when these players are hitting their 24s and 25s.
Well, I think
they've been protected.
I think that's what Clipo's looking to do, is scouting kind of the players across the field to fit a lot of that mould. Because as you say, we've got the talent coming through. We just need guys that can play roles, really, and that can run out games and take a little bit of pressure off the younger players so they don't have to go crazy. They don't need like a 19-year-old to cover and carry a game. You've got someone who's a bit older to do, do his role and do that.
Hey, man, I look at Paddy Dowell's job now. That should have been his job when he was fucking drafted.
Yeah.
Having 4 people who can give him easy ball out the back of a contest and work to his skills. But instead, Carlton had this obsession with $1 million footballers and going for ridiculous players. Mitch McGovern's only bearing fruit now, 5 years after we've traded him. We should have had players there to protect these young kids. So now they were becoming the bigger bodies. And Carlton have got lucky. They've got lucky that they have built a good list. Nick Austin.
I wish you took Shield. I wish you got Shield and not us.
Nick Austin deserves a kiss on the forehead because his trade in the last 6 years.
I think that's been our biggest issue with the defense as well. Just like relying on young kids to do stuff. When hey, you've got a 19-year-old, play on this 30-year-old player who's a key forward who kicks 40 goals a game. You'll do it, right?
Mate,
why are you not defending? Just defend. Do your job.
I rate your list. I don't see an issue with your list, and I'm not a big fan of buying into this leadership stuff at all.
There's a lot missing there. You might not say it as an opposition fan, but there's a lot.
No, but what I mean is though, like leadership, people go on about this Luke Hodge. It's happened like 3 times in the AFL. Luke Hodges are as rare as rocking or shit. Do you know what I mean? There isn't a Luke Hodge right now in the AFL that you can go out and buy. Because
I don't know if it's a leadership thing more than you getting in that one stable player that you can pivot your team around while the young players come in. Like if we had got someone who, let's even say like a Taylor Walker, if we had got him in and said, your job is just to be the pivot point that we can just, in the stopgap or whatever, kick to you and the young players have someone to kick to and allows other people to do stuff, no worries. I think that's what it's more meaning than just, you're here to teach the team how to play. Because obviously that's not going to happen.
No, I agree. I think like you're looking at the young leaders in the draft. You're looking at, you've got a lot of X Factor stars. It's all about finding those standard pushers. Like if I was North, I'd be looking at your players from good systems. Your players that, are going to bring something like, I know he's not an exciting signing, but, someone like Sam Menegola at Geelong.
Yeah.
Right? Who he's probably going to give you 12 games because he's always injured, but he's going to set the standard and help develop your young leaders. I think LDU is a phenomenal player, and I think he'll be a great leader himself. I think Ben Cunnington will have passed on a lot of great knowledge to the players. I think Jack Zeeble, he's been there and done it. He gets it.
Try and get Jared Lyons, mate. Try and get Jared Lyons out of Brisbane. He can't get a game.
That's what they've tried to do a lot with Liam Shields as well. Just come in.
Yeah.
You don't have to play a lot, but be that kind of leadership staple in the team.
But I think, even like Callan Ward at GWS.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Them type of players that are older and been there and done it, right? But I don't think you need this whole this obsession with a 35-year-old Luke Hodge does my head in, because Luke Hodge is Luke Hodge. Carlton fans were obsessed with that a couple of years ago, and I'm like, find me a Luke Hodge.
They did Luke Hodge, and then the year after they did Birchill. So,
Yeah, and Hodge is a genius. Eagles did it with Sam Mitchell. He's a genius. It's hard to find, though. Where's the next dynasty? The only dynasty we've probably got playing now is Richmond, right?
I think.
Pendles could be a good shout for that sort of player to come to your team if you can get a Pendle breeder.
The issue is that North has forgotten how to win. I think that's the big issue.
Yeah, but that's what Carlton had. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you've got to fight through it. And I said it at the time in 2018. Don't buy your way out of it. Cop it. Do you know what I mean? If we win another 2 games, I remember saying this in 2018. If we win 2 games in 2019, I couldn't give a fuck. Just find your team, and good culture will stop them having a suck. Clarkson's done this before.
And that's what he's looking to do in the preseason.
Do you know what I mean? If I thought not Hawthorn's rebuild, genius. Because they've got to learn. I loved Mitchell bollocking them today, and I was like, they're playing a good side. St Kilda are no mugs. But he bollocked them because they've got to learn. And then they had that great win at the start of the year. And Mitchell said something fantastic where he goes, yeah, we've beaten a top 4 side today, but to win a flag, you've got to do this 22 times. So we're going to enjoy it, but we go to work tomorrow about trying to get to that 22 times. I'm a firm believer that you can play kids from the start, right? You just need the good people around them. And you know what? I think Carlton have taken way too long. Jonas Goat will probably agree with me. When you have a draft like that, 2015, the fact we're talking about finals now.
Bad. That's not bad,
well, the fact we're talking about finals in 2023, and that will be the first time this group has played finals, is laughable. To me, it's laughable.
You could have played it last year, and you probably should have played it last year. But of course, your problem was a lot in here, and it felt like you were. You had something, the finals berth, that you were afraid to let go. You were playing almost scared, trying to hold on and afraid to miss out on something that you've got. Whereas now it's just stuff this. We're taking this and we're going all the way. It's just you say different vibes, it's different mentality, the way you're going about it in the dark times this year as well. It's it was almost like you were just collapsing under your own expectations because gee, why is none of it working? It's not, we should be better than this. And like I said,
almost afraid to be vulnerable for a little while. Just be like, well, something's not working. Let's take a couple of losses so we can figure out an experiment, which is obviously what's happened a little bit because now the team looks a lot better than what it did 5 weeks ago.
We've seen it a lot, though. David Teague, 2019, he came in, played aggressive football, Carlton snuck really high up the ladder. Vibes were high. Then being a Carlton coach, there's that pressure, that expectation. And when shit goes wrong, no one has the balls to stick the course. And that's why I think Voss is a very interesting predicament because he's had the manic high of 8-2 last year. He's had the disappointment stage, which every coach has had. Then he's had the false dawn, first 4 games. Then he's had that dark run. And that dark run usually is when we sack you. And it's interesting that Voss's method in that dark run was what you're seeing Mitchell do at Hawthorn. Fuck it. Yeah. If we lose, we lose. We're playing our brand. And if we lose, I get sacked tomorrow. We're going out playing my way. And that is something I implore all the sides to do. I think North now set up not to get dipped. And that is Ratton's mandate. Ratton always has done that. That's why he lost his job at Saints. I like the fact that Collingwood, Cow, and GWS with Kingsley, Essendon did early start of the year, and they've kind of slipped now, gone to a bit more of a safe approach. But all them 4 teams we're talking about are literally coming out and saying, this is how we play. And I'll tell you what, as a fan, if we lost to Collingwood playing how we did, I wouldn't be upset because I want to see a side that sets up to win, not don't lose. And I said it at Essendon when we lost to you. Voss spent 4 quarters with not getting battered in his head. You could see the way we set up. It was like, fuck, if we lose this, it can't be a big loss.
And you brought Kerno to tag Merritt.
Yeah.
when we had half our midfield was out. Like we had no Shield, we had no Parrish, we had no Setterfield. And then we took Merritt into the forward line. Our midfield was Caldwell, Perkins, Hobbs.
Yeah. And you saw this week, we didn't press the panic button. We stuck with Dow. We went with a more aggressive lineup as well. We didn't bring in Ed Kerno. We didn't bring in the old guard. We went, you know what? If we're going to lose, we're going to lose because we're not good enough. We're going to play our way. And you know what? Amazing. Battered Port, battered Eagles, then battered Collingwood. It's amazing what happens if you play to win in this game.
Correct. Yeah. That's why I'm not disappointed with our loss this week. Like, I know it's annoying. Another close, narrow loss. Add that to our list of close losses this year. But, like, I'm not disappointed about it because last week I was really pissed off about it. Last week we played uber safe, just overpossessed it in the back line. It was disgusting. To this week, they had the rocket up there, go out there, actually attack the game, play with flair, try and win it. And, we were 30 seconds away from winning the game. That's something I can live with. I can live with that, but playing kick to kick in the back line is just simply not going to.
Well, that's what we were doing this week.
You got to play to win, man. It's all about winning, and it's amazing what winning does to a culture. It's amazing what winning does to your confidence. It just simplifies the game so much. Score more than your opponent.
Mate, you're only one win. They always say you're only one loss away from losing your job in this game. I would flip that and say you're only one win away from fucking going on a run to finals. Do you know what I mean? Like, people always think about that. And I watched North today. I thought North didn't press the button until the 4th quarter. Mm-hmm. I felt like they should have come out and said, the pressure's on the Eagles. Simpson's been there 100 years. If he loses this is Sacktown. They had a free hit. And I worry about Essendon as well. These tight losses. I remember Teague. He had all them tight losses in his first full season, the COVID year. And it's the same with Collingwood. AFL media are stupid. They always like, tight wins, they don't count, it's not sustainable. Fucking is. In England, if you win 1-0, that's a sign of a side that can win no matter what. That's a compliment of winning when you shouldn't. My fear with Essendon is I hope they don't do a David Teague, because David Teague saw them tight losses and tried to change what he did. And he went the opposite way, and he tried to make it a lot more defensive and a lot more safe, because we used to concede shit goals late and then lose by a point or something. I hope Scott uses his head and goes, you know what? Next year, we're going to be even more aggressive. I'm going to go in. I'm going to bring some pace on the outside, and we're going to fucking just go harder. We're going to go harder.
I think we will, because we're going to get Mackay to sort of help stabilize that back line, and then we can go hard, because right now we're sort of being caught out. We're trying to defend ourselves. We're playing a bit safe because our back line isn't the best in the league. We're relying on a guy like young BZT to be taking the number 1 forwards for teams, and Ridley's had to play very accountable, and he's an intercept defender for us. So I'd imagine with a more solid back 6, you sort of have that clearance that we can go and trust our back line to sort of, if it doesn't work out, they can at least mop it up and we won't automatically concede something. It's something to be said about having that confidence behind you to take the game on and to go. Because if you didn't have Wiedering winning every one-on-one that comes his way, and if you didn't have guys at ground level that can mop up like your Sards and like your Dohertys, your midfield probably your ball movement probably wouldn't be as dynamic and exciting. I can't imagine Collingwood playing fast, dynamic footy if they didn't have the confidence in Moore and Murphy to form a great duo in the air behind the ball. I think having that stability behind is so important.
Yeah, it's what makes Lever and May so good for Melbourne.
Exactly. Lever and May killing it in the back line. It gives them the green light. Let's change our midfield mix. Let's add Harms in there. Let's add Cozzy Pickett in there, who might not be the best defensively, but hey, we can back in our great key defenders back there to stem the flow, and we can get some aggressive ball movement going. We can put Petrarca on the ball, even though he's probably better as a half forward. Let's put Petrarca on the ball, some more excitement, dynamic play, because you've got that assurity behind. So, hopefully, I agree. Hopefully next year we can play still aggressive footy. And because that's the way to go. That's the way to Collingwood are showing that playing aggressive footy, and you guys playing aggressive in defense is really important to be able to to stymie that offense. And mate, give me better offense over better defense. For me, I love attacking football, and a lot of teams are winning. They're winning games, but then they play defensive to solidify the win. And then guess what? The team that maintained the offense start to finish was the team that managed to get over the top.
I think the AFL media underplays a lot of things and how simple our game is. You look at Richmond. I remember round 1, 2019, when Rance did his ACL against Carlton. I remember everyone going, Richmond are cooked. Richmond can't have that injection off the back line. Carlton have done the competition a favour. Grimes came in and was arguably the best defender in the league. Do you know what I mean? Like, he took that role. And I'm a firm believer that moving the ball fast, it doesn't matter if you're a shit side or a good side, gives you the best chance. I think the team build, I watched Will Day off halfback for Hawthorn. Big change for them. But you start to see, even though they haven't got the midfield grunt yet because they're a young side, that's still dangerous. That transition threat has fucked a lot of sides. And it causes issues to play against. I think all sides need to be bold. Brisbane, Corey makes a great point. You look at Brisbane, that was the big change. People always forget this, and that's why I was saying on Blue Abroad the other week, I hope Brisbane and Carlton play in a grand final together. Because I was like, I remember 2018, we were both in our rebuild. And the big change was Fagan went full attack from the back half of the ground as soon as Hodge came in. Carlton didn't. Carlton relied on that midfield, and that's where they wanted to focus their energies. And you used to watch Brisbane, it just used to be bang, 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 bang. And Carlton's was scrappy, 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 scrappy. I believe all teams should look back half of the ground. Doesn't matter if you've got Dylan Moore, Darcy Moore, or Dave from the Dog and Duck. It should be mark, handball, get the ball out of there. Because that's when you are most vulnerable. As a Carlton fan, Jonas will tell you, fuck me. Carlton, when we're attacking, we're begging for a goal against. We're one kick away from conceding when we're 20 metres out in front. It's a scary thing being a Carlton fan, but more teams need to do it. And the press need to drive this, because the press drives some shit agendas. Oh, I heard it about Hawthorn at the start of the year. Oh, Mitchell's too aggressive. How can you be too aggressive? I'd rather, if I was a Hawthorn fan, lose by 100 playing football than putting 22 men on the goal line, hoping you don't lose so you can say we lost by 12.
Exactly. Yeah, I 100% agree. But having said that, go for it.
Before I head off, Pom, because I have to go to work and whatever in the morning, how worried were you about losing the game when Jeremy House went to the forward line and started kicking goals with 10 minutes to go?
Well, I mean, the watch along is proof. I was as relaxed as possible. I was singing, just telling them all to get fucked. Now, mate, only team that can beat the Blues is the Blues now. Flag's ours.
All right.
Carver the only ones who can stop Kerno.
I got to head off, guys. I'll catch you later. Thanks for coming on. You guys chat as much as you want, but I got to head off. So
we love
really
you, Big J.
Seeing everybody. Thanks, Shannon, for the loss today. We'll be back, and hopefully we're back tomorrow, Joe.
Yes, for sure. Have a good one, man. See you. What was I going to say? Yeah, Jeremy Howe was annoying. But having said that, playing offensive, all guns blazing out of the back line can be great, can be devastating. But if not done correctly, it can certainly bite you in the ass. And our team with Saad and McKenna, having them running off halfback, unfortunately wasn't a very positive experience for us. And it was beating the lower sides, but against the good sides, they were blocking the corridor, and we weren't able to get that run and gun going, and we would get smashed into elimination finals because that run and gun off halfback just simply wasn't sustainable and would always come off unstuck. Like there's got to be some reason behind the madness. You can't just be all guns blazing. And I think it's important having width on your players, having genuine wingers that can maintain their width to try and stretch the defense as wide as possible and allow. You just need one player to burst through there, break a line. And the stand rule has certainly helped facilitate that. I think we were playing that running off halfback, unfortunately, just a bit too early. And once I saw the stand rule came in, I'm like, oh man, this would have been so good for us a few years ago when we had Saad and McKenna running off halfback just to exploit that matchup on the mark. But alas, that is one for the archives that people probably won't notice, that if we had that team from back then now, we might be causing a bit more headaches.
I look at them though. You had Rutten, didn't you, and Worsfold? And
yes.
Caveat, I think Worsey was a good idea from after the scandal, and you had to rebuild from the ground up.
Yeah.
Was probably a good idea. But I look at your team now, though. The danger you've got there, I think Mason Redman is one of the most underrated players in the comp. We talk about intercept genius, and you think about Tom Stewart. I don't think there's a major difference between Redman and Stewart. I think both of them attack the ball hard, both look to penetrate with their foot, both are very zippy as well, both can take players on. Nick Hind, we take the piss out of him at Carlton because you lot made a big thing that he's better than Saad, but line-breaking speed, McGrath moving down to halfback, you've got that great little user, the guy that looks to play them give and goes. I think BZT is a phenomenal defender, and I know you've been trialing Nick Cox down the back, and you haven't really got the depth down there, so that's going to hurt you. But I do think you've got the tools there to hurt a side. Like, not every team has a good second tall. That's what people forget. People always say you need two good key defenders, but a lot of teams' seconds Levi Casbolt. He's just a big guy who can kick. It's not like not every team is luxurious like Carlton, right? He's not luxurious like Carlton and has two elite key forwards. But then you've got some quality players. Do you know what I mean? I think Sam Durham's brilliant. I think Alwyn Davey will be brilliant. I think Guelphy and Langford put in so much pressure. Nick Martin's probably the best winger in the comp. If he played for Collingwood, they would talk about him like Josh Dacos. I just think it's because he plays for a team that's 10th to 12th. Like, I think you've got some real talent there, and I think you've had a couple of add a decent key defender. Like, if you can add a Ben Mackay to sit there fullback, and Zirk Thatcher then can be more of that loose player.
Yeah.
Tell you what, you'll give teams problem.
No, yeah. No, I'm excited for next year. I am. It was all about the process, and obviously there's been some times this year where it's just like, geez, really, that's pretty bad. But I mean, it's a young side. The thing that I'm most annoyed about, I don't know, is I understand Brad Scott says that he's a development coach, but we've played the third least number of players this year. We haven't been changing it up. We haven't been blooding more young players that that we're hoping to see more of, like Sardis, for example. He's had a great run in the VFL. Kane Baldwin has been great in the VFL. I think Voss has been pretty good in the VFL, but they're not getting called up. And it's just like, why? Why aren't they being played, mate? Like, I don't know. I think this year is more of an experimental year, trying to see where the team is at, who are the senior players that are going to stick around, because this is obviously not his team. He's just come in and inherited this list. So I can I can see that there's going to probably be some changes, and I would love to see a Mackay at outside. I think if we got another key defender, would shore us up, and still wouldn't put us in contention next year, that's for sure. But I do see us winning a final the year after next year, I think.
I think you got some good young players. I mean, people are also sleeping, and don't sleep on him, but Lewis Hayes, like for me, Lewis Hayes, in my opinion, last year, I thought he was better than Busslinger. More undersized and a project, but I thought as a natural footballer, I liked him. And you talk about Melbourne, I think people always say Lever, Petty, and May, that flag-winning year is probably the best trio they've seen. Very similar makeup, them three. I think Hayes is a terrific footballer, and I'd be interested to see how he goes. Status, we know he's world-class. Do you know what I mean? If you're holding him back, you're holding him back, but I think he's a very good winger. And like Jonas says, that's a big thing that Carlton have changed. They've put a lot of time into elite runners. That's Austin. I think he's only drafted 2 players that aren't ranked elite at junior, and that's something that Carlton have always negated. They've gone for class over aerobic fitness, and you're starting to pay dividends now. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I agree with him. Golden and Nick Martin. Nick Martin is another level as a winger. Like, if I'm an Essendon fan, Nick Martin and Starters on the wing, that's tasty.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited about Nick Martin. I just think that he'll be. I think Nick Martin will get pipped by Josh Dacos though.
I mean, that's unless they even pick wingers and they just fucking deploy Crips on the wing and fucking stupid shit like that. You know what the AFL are like? Do you know what I mean? The backline's going to be 6 key defenders.
Yeah, probably. Anyways, it's been over 2.5 hours. It's 11:36 p.m. and yeah, I think a lot of people want to get to bed, yourself included. I'm sure the buzz from Friday night might not have died down completely, but it's always a pleasure having you on, Pommy man. And talking Carlton is used to be something that a lot of people would love to do because it would always be at your detriment. But now things have changed a lot, my man. Where can all of our wonderful viewers find you?
If you just search in Pommy and Oz, I am very active on Twitter. Should probably be more active on Facebook and Insta and TikTok, but YouTube is where you'll find me. We do daily content, not just about Carlton. We do sneak a bit of Carlton content in there, though, because we especially now. 6 weeks ago, we were talking about every fucking club. Even netball came up. Like, I was trying to find anything. God. I was trying to find anything not to talk about Carlton. But yeah, come and say hi. Live streams, we have a bit of a crack as well, and we don't take ourselves too serious.
No, man, it's everybody here loves you. You're a massive friend of the channel, and everyone gets excited whenever you come on. None more excited than me, though. I love talking to you, buddy. Thank you so much for coming on, guys. Make sure you head on over to Pommy and Oz, chuck them a sub, and if you haven't subbed to Blue Abroad as well, you got to get on over there. As Jonas says here, there's going to be a lot more Carlton talk going forward. So if you're a Carlton fan, strap in, keep your hands and feet inside the roller coaster at all times. Have a lovely evening, everybody, and we'll see you in the next one.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.